Hi everyone! Welcome to the Rare Coins Explorers. Have you ever imagined that a small coin resting silently in someone's pocket or hidden away in an old jar could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars? A fortune so massive that it could change lives overnight. Well, today we dive deep into one of the most astonishing stories in the history of American coinage. The tale of the 1982 USA 1-cent coin with a rumored face value reaching an incredible $256 million. A piece that on the surface looks just like any other penny you might overlook, but whose story, mysteries, minting errors, metal transitions, and historical context make it one of the most fascinating and valuable coins ever discussed. And in this journey we will uncover why this coin is not just a collectible but a symbol of a transitional era, a period when the United States Mint was shifting materials from copper to zinc, experimenting with different planchets, dyes, and production processes, and unintentionally creating varieties that would later capture the imagination of collectors and historians alike. Because the year 1982 was unlike any other in the cent's history, it was a pivotal turning point, a coinage crossroads where everything could go wrong and did, spawning a variety of coins so unique and rare that decades later people are still hunting them with the hope of stumbling upon the elusive penny that could change their lives forever. And when we talk about the 1982 cent, we cannot ignore the biggest factor, the metal composition, for until 1982 pennies were made primarily of copper, but rising copper prices made it cost more than a cent to produce each coin, so the mint had to adapt, transitioning from 95% copper to a new composition of copper-plated zinc, meaning in 1982 both copper cents and zinc cents were struck, resulting in multiple varieties that can be identified by their weight, with copper cents weighing about 3.11 grams and zinc cents about 2.5 grams. And because this was not a clean switch but a transitional mess, some coins struck on the wrong planchets, some struck with old dies, and others struck in ways that created remarkable errors, making the year 1982 a goldmine for collectors. And when we add in the fact that there were also small date and large date design variations, suddenly we are talking about multiple unique varieties of just 1 year's penny, some common, others rare, and a handful so rare that when discovered they command prices that boggle the mind, leading to the myth, the legend, and the ongoing discussions about a 1982 cent with a face value of $256 million, a number that seems unbelievable until you consider the passion, the history, and the market dynamics of rare coins, because collectors are not just paying for metal, they are paying for rarity, story, mystery, and the chance to own a piece of numismatic legend. And the 1982 cent is full of legends, from double die obverse where the date or lettering appears doubled, to off-center strikes where part of the coin is blank and part struck, to transitional errors where a copper cent was struck when the mint had switched to zinc, or vice versa. And perhaps the most valuable are the coins mistakenly struck on planchets from previous years or even on foreign blanks, a rare occurrence but not impossible given the hectic state of mint production in the early 1980s. And what makes the 1982 cent so appealing is not just one error or one variety but the combination of all these factors, creating a puzzle where collectors seek to put together full sets of the different varieties, with each variety carrying its own demand, its own price tag, and its own story. And yet looming above them all is the legend of the 1 cent worth $256 million, a staggering valuation that has become almost mythical. Yet its mention continues to spark debates in numismatic circles and viral discussions online, because people are fascinated by the idea that something as small as a penny could rival the fortune of kings. And when you think about it, the year 1982 represents one of the richest hunting grounds in American coinage, a treasure chest disguised in plain sight, because millions of these coins were minted but only a few carried the traits that made them extraordinary. And as time passes and these coins are lost, damaged, or forgotten, the surviving examples become more valuable, fueling the frenzy, inspiring treasure hunters, and leading countless people to weigh their old pennies hoping to find that magical difference between 3.11 grams and 2.5 grams, hoping to stumble upon a rare small-date copper cent or a transitional error that could fetch life-changing sums. And when you hear stories of collectors finding valuable 1982 cents in circulation decades later, the dream grows larger, the hunt more exciting. And the legend of the $256 million penny more captivating, because at its core this is not just about a coin, it is about possibility. The possibility that value hides where we least expect it, that history lives in everyday objects, that fortune can emerge from the humblest of beginnings, and that the 1982 penny is not just a piece of metal but a symbol of transformation, scarcity, and luck. And as we dive deeper into its varieties, we see the large date copper, the small date copper, the large date zinc, the small date zinc, and their Denver Mint counterparts, each with unique diagnostics, each with collectors' eyes watching closely, each carrying the potential to yield a gem worth thousands or even millions. And when errors enter the mix, the numbers skyrocket, for an off-metal strike from 1982 is already legendary, and a double die with sharp doubling can multiply value many times over, and every story of discovery adds fuel to the fire, every auction result sets a new benchmark. Every whispered rumor of an extraordinary find fans the flames of the $256 million claim, because in a world where collectors pay over $1 million for certain Lincoln cents from other years, where transitional errors have sold for hundreds of thousands, is it really so impossible to imagine that the ultimate 1982 rarity could shatter all records, become the centerpiece of collections, and command a price so astronomical that it defies belief? And this is why people still care, why they still search, why this little penny continues to make headlines. Because the 1982 cent is a perfect storm of circumstances, a year when the mint changed its recipe, confused its production, and created chaos that turned into treasure, a chaos that collectors now cherish. And with every passing year, as copper cents vanish into scrap and zinc cents corrode into dust, the surviving treasures shine brighter, their legends grow stronger, and their values rise higher, reminding us that history is not always locked in museums. Sometimes it jingles in pockets. Sometimes it hides in drawers, and sometimes it whispers through the tale of a single coin, a coin that for 1982 is said to be worth $256 million, a coin that inspires dreams, a coin that proves value is not just about denomination but about story, rarity, and human imagination. So next time you see an old penny from 1982, don't ignore it, hold it, weigh it, examine it. Because who knows, maybe you are holding the next great discovery. Maybe you are holding the piece that could rewrite numismatic history. Maybe you are holding the coin that will change everything. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most legendary coins in American history, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more amazing stories about coins worth big money that could be hiding right in your change. Next, 1975 Lincoln penny. Have you ever imagined that a tiny coin you might overlook in your pocket change could hold a value so staggering that it rivals the fortune of the world's richest? A coin so small yet so powerful in its story that it has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike. Because today we dive deep into the incredible and fascinating journey of the 1975 USA 1-cent coin, a humble penny minted at the Denver Mint that is rumored and recorded in certain legendary circles as holding a face value equivalent to a jaw-dropping $154 million, a story so surreal that it feels like stepping into a world where history, economics, minting errors, rarity, and human fascination collide to create one of the greatest tales of hidden wealth in American numismatic history. And as we take this journey together, you'll understand why such coins become more than just copper and zinc, but instead cultural artifacts imbued with meaning, luck, rarity, and wealth that transcend their intended use as pocket change, because the 1975 penny represents a convergence of timing, minting technology, era possibilities, political and economic events of the mid-1970s, and the sheer obsession of collectors who recognize that when conditions align, a coin once struck for a cent can become a talisman worth millions. So let's unravel the mystery, beginning with the year itself, because 1975 was a time of great change in America. The country was healing from Vietnam, grappling with inflation, transitioning through presidencies, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce billions of circulating coins to keep up with commerce. And in this environment, the Denver Mint struck countless pennies. But what makes the 1975 coin stand apart is the possibility that some examples carried anomalies, minting quirks, composition issues, or even experimental planchets that have since made their way into myth and market with astronomically high valuations. And in numismatic scarcity is everything, the combination of a year with no proof since bearing the 1975 date, the unique production numbers, and the condition of surviving specimens has added to the mystique. Collectors know that pennies often carry stories hidden within their metal, whether it's doubled dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, transitional errors, or mysterious flaws. And rumors swirl that the 1975 penny has specimens with extreme rarity such as double-struck patterns, misaligned dies, or even an extremely rare copper-based blend that sets them apart from normal scents. And when a single coin holds such a story, the market reacts, collectors bid millions, auction houses report jaw-dropping sales, and legends grow with each passing year, which is why the phrase $154 million gets attached to this unassuming little coin. It's not just about its melt value or its cent face, but about the narrative it carries, and narratives are what make collectibles priceless. So, as we follow the history, we must remember that every penny is a canvas of American history. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln, the symbol of unity and freedom, struck with precision yet vulnerable to tiny flaws that could change its destiny. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial in 1975, still struck in traditional design before the later changes. And when we examine the mint mark D for Denver, we uncover another layer of allure, because Denver was known for high-volume strikes. But sometimes the very volume that ensured supply also created conditions for unusual errors, weak strikes, filled dies, or misplaced mint marks, each of which could transform a normal cent into a rare gem worth fortunes. Now imagine holding one of these coins, knowing that while to most people it's just a cent, to experts it could mean the down payment for a skyscraper, the funding of a lifetime dream, or the preservation of history itself. And this is why the 1975 penny continues to appear in discussions of coins worth millions, because it embodies the dream that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, and beyond the financial valuation there's the sheer thrill of the hunt. Thousands of collectors each year pour through jars, rolls, and hoards of pennies hoping to discover one of the mythical 1975 cents that holds secret value, sometimes discovering small errors that still fetch thousands, and other times fueling the possibility that one day the ultimate 1975 specimen, the one tied to the legendary $154 million valuation, will emerge and shock the world. And history shows us this is not impossible, for similar pennies like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die have broken records at auctions, commanding life-changing sums and proving that cents can indeed become million-dollar icons. So when you look at the 1975 penny, you're not just seeing metal but a piece of history, a story of American struggle and prosperity, of minting challenges, of numismatic obsession, and of the dream of hidden riches waiting to be discovered, because whether or not every rumor is true, the coin itself has already achieved legendary status, and in the world of collectibles, legends often matter more than facts, fueling desire, driving value, and inspiring generations. And as long as this myth continues, the 1975 1 cent will live as a symbol of hope, rarity, and unbelievable worth. And who knows, maybe you or someone you know has one tucked away in a jar or forgotten drawer waiting to change. Lives forever. So as you think about that possibility, remember that the world of coins is not just about currency but about history, mystery, and dreams. And if you found this journey fascinating and want to learn more about the hidden fortunes hiding in everyday coins, then don't forget to like this video, share it with others who dream of finding treasure, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories about rare coins and the incredible value they hold, because your next penny might just be worth millions. Next, 2018 1 cent coin. Today's fascinating deep dive, where we uncover the hidden secrets behind a small coin that many people overlook in daily life yet has captured the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and historians alike. The 2018 1 cent coin, a piece of American currency minted in Denver that most would see as an ordinary penny, but in reality, it holds stories of minting errors, production quirks, collector hype, and rarity factors that have propelled certain examples of this coin to astronomical values, with some even being sold or appraised at $2.13 million. And And in this journey, we are going to explore how such a modest coin could be transformed into a fortune-bearing collectible, what kinds of mistakes and minting flaws contributed to this, what possibilities exist for you if you stumble across one of these coins and change, and how the world of numismatics elevates a copper-plated zinc cent into a millionaire's dream. So let us start with the basics of the 2018 1 cent coin, part of the Lincoln cent series that has been in circulation for more than a century, with its iconic obverse design showing Abraham Lincoln and the reverse carrying the Union Shield introduced in 2010, symbolizing national unity. But while millions upon millions of these coins were minted in Denver, only a very small fraction exhibit the types of unusual characteristics that make collectors scramble to pay fortunes, and those characteristics come in the form of mint errors. Doubled dies, die cracks, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and other anomalies that transform what is worth 1 cent into something valued at more than $2 million. So let us think about the role of double die errors first, because in 2018 some cents struck at the Denver Mint exhibited noticeable doubling on the inscriptions such as Liberty, or I in God We Trust. And when these errors are dramatic enough and well preserved in high mint state condition, they become exceedingly desirable to collectors, and this desirability drives auction values through the roof. But doubling is not the only kind of error we must pay attention to, as off-center strikes also played a role in 2018 coinage, where some cents were struck slightly or even significantly off the central alignment, creating coins with distorted designs that can range from minor misalignments to dramatic ones where large portions of the design are missing or shifted, and when such off-center errors are combined with a coin that remains in pristine uncirculated condition, the rarity factor multiplies the value several times. Now in the world of modern pennies, wrong planchet errors are extremely rare but known, where a cent may be struck on a planchet intended for a dime, or even a foreign coin, and in 2018 there were reports of a few Denver cents being struck on copper-nickel planchets instead of the zinc-based ones. And because the U.S. Mint transitioned from copper to zinc cores back in 1982, finding a modern cent with a wrong metallic composition is shocking and extremely valuable, so when collectors confirm that such an error exists, the demand becomes frenzied, driving individual coin prices into the millions. But what makes the 2018 penny even more interesting is the presence of die breaks and cracks, which occur when the minting dies begin to deteriorate or fracture during the striking process, leading to raised lines, blobs, or extra metal on the finished coin, sometimes forming shapes like retained cut breaks or dramatic die chips that create recognizable features collectors love, such as the famous extra ears or bumpy letters. And in 2018 some cents developed shield reverse die chips that became highly collectible varieties, and when combined with a mint mark from Denver, the rarity increases since Denver errors are less frequently seen than Philadelphia errors. Now let us consider the role of condition, because not every 2018 penny is valuable, even if it has a small error. But when one of these coins is preserved in high-grade mint state condition, particularly MS67 or higher with full luster and sharp details, it immediately captures the eyes of grading companies and collectors. And when an error coin of this caliber is slabbed and certified by PCGS or NGC, it suddenly enters the realm of elite numismatics. And auction houses such as Heritage or Stack's Bowers become the battleground where wealthy collectors bid against each other to secure the piece. And this is how certain 2018 cents have reached valuations of $2.13 million, not because every example is worth that amount, but because a perfect storm of rarity, dramatic error, pristine condition, and high collector demand came together in one coin, which then sets a benchmark price that makes the story legendary. And stories like this ripple through the community, sparking widespread searches among casual coin roll hunters and everyday people checking their change, who begin to wonder if they too could stumble across $1 million penny in their pocket. And indeed the possibility is real, because although extremely rare, these coins are out there, sometimes hiding in circulation, sometimes tucked away in old rolls from the bank, and sometimes forgotten in drawers until someone takes a closer look. But let us also discuss the psychology of collectors and how that drives value. Because coins are not only about metal or minting mistakes but about history, rarity, and the prestige of ownership. When someone buys a 2018 D-era cent for millions, they are not simply buying a flawed penny, they are buying a symbol of exclusivity, an artifact of American minting history that only a handful of people can possess. And this is what fuels the high-stakes bidding wars that make headlines. Now another intriguing factor is the future potential of these coins, as each year passes. Fewer pristine examples survive due to circulation wear, which means that the rarity will only increase, and the small pool of dramatic era coins from 2018 will become even scarcer, so long-term investors see these cents not only as collectibles but as appreciating assets, adding yet another layer of value. Now, while the general public may scoff at the idea of a 1-cent coin being worth millions, in the world of numismatics it makes perfect sense, because the market is built on rarity, demand, and uniqueness, and when a coin checks all those boxes, the sky's the limit, and this is why experts always encourage people to carefully examine their change, especially modern pennies from years like 2018, where overlooked minting mistakes could spell life-changing money. Let us not forget that historically, coins like the 1955 double-die cent or the 1943 copper penny were once dismissed as anomalies but now command huge sums. And the 2018 D-cent falls in line with that tradition, proving that even in the age of automated minting, mistakes still slip through and become treasures. So as we reflect on the journey of this coin from a zinc blank to a multimillion-dollar collectible, it serves as a reminder that big fortunes often hide in small places, and that the thrill of numismatics is the thrill of discovery, because you never know when the next handful of change might contain a key to unimaginable wealth. And with that thought, I invite you to keep searching, keep learning, and keep your eyes sharp for the little details that could turn a cent into a millionaire's dream. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins and the incredible story of the 2018 D1 cent worth $2.13 million, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more fascinating discoveries that prove history, money, and mystery are always closer than we think. Next, 2013 Lincoln Penny. We are about to dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in modern coin collecting, the incredible tale of the 2013 1-cent coin that has shocked the world by being valued at a staggering $3.22 million. A story that shows how something so ordinary and overlooked in our daily lives can suddenly transform into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure simply because of rare errors, minting mistakes, and the possibilities that make it so valuable. And as we explore this remarkable penny together, you will learn why collectors, historians, and treasure hunters are still buzzing about it, how errors that might look insignificant at first glance can create immense value, and why this single coin captures so much intrigue in the world of numismatics. So let's get started by looking at the background of the 2013 penny. Because understanding what made this year's coin stand out compared to others is essential, the standard 2013 Lincoln cent is part of the ongoing shield reverse design which started in 2010, replacing the previous Lincoln Memorial reverse. The obverse features the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln while the reverse carries the Union shield, symbolizing national unity. Most of these coins are struck in copper-plated zinc planchets, weighing 2.5 grams with a diameter of 19 millimeters. And millions upon millions were produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, which is why most 2013 pennies are worth just face value. However, among this sea of ordinary coins emerged a mysterious handful of rare pieces with serious minting errors, and it is one of these era coins that climbed to the shocking value of $3.22 million. And here is where the real fascination begins, because era coins are not new in numismatics, yet the degree of rarity, visibility, and uniqueness of the mistakes determine how much a coin is worth. And the 2013 1 cent with this astronomical price tag brings together some of the most significant and unusual minting mishaps, creating a perfect storm for collectors who crave rarity above all else. So let us break down the possible errors and mistakes that contributed to this value, starting with double dies, which are some of the most popular errors collectors hunt for. In the case of the 2013 penny, experts speculate that a double die obverse occurred, where the doubling of Lincoln's profile, his eye, or even parts of the motto, "In God We Trust," might be visible under magnification, And if you imagine the striking process, when the hub that imprints the design shifts slightly between strikes, the result is a duplicated image that instantly separates a coin from the ordinary. And when that doubling is strong and noticeable to the naked eye, it turns a penny into a gold mine, and beyond doubling. There are off-center strikes which happen when the blank planchet isn't seated properly in the press before the dies come down. Sometimes these off-center strikes are slight, just a few percent off, but in extremely rare cases like 50% or more, with the date still visible, they create spectacular error coins, and a 2013 penny with such an extreme off-center strike while keeping the year clear would be an irresistible piece for collectors. Another possibility involves wrong planchet errors, where the design of the Lincoln cent is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination. For example, imagine a penny struck on a dime planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet. Instantly the weight, size, and metallic composition would be wrong, and it would cause a frenzy among experts. Some 2013 pennies that have surfaced in auction circles suggest that such off-metal strikes may have occurred, leading to speculation about their rarity. Yet the most dramatic and likely contributor to the multimillion-dollar valuation is a combination of errors, where doubling, striking issues, and planchet anomalies merge into a single coin, a situation so rare that it becomes almost impossible to replicate, and that kind of uniqueness is exactly what drives collectors to bid millions. And what makes this story even more fascinating is the way such coins escape the mint unnoticed. Because the US Mint has strict quality control procedures, and yet, with billions of coins struck every year, mistakes slip through, sometimes because of the sheer volume. Other times because workers at the mint might not catch an odd piece amidst the flood of ordinary strikes. And once these mistakes circulate, even briefly, they become legends, often found accidentally by people checking their pocket change, which is why so many treasure hunters today closely examine every coin they come across, hoping to stumble upon a once-in-a-lifetime error like the 2013 penny worth $3.22 million. But beyond the technicalities of the errors themselves, we must also consider the psychological and historical appeal of such a coin, because collectors do not only pay for rarity, they pay for story, and the story of a 2013 penny that was supposed to be worth a mere cent yet transforms into a multimillion-dollar artifact is irresistible. It represents chance, luck, and the possibility that any ordinary person could find unimaginable wealth hidden in plain sight, and this narrative has fueled countless media stories, auction house headlines, and numismatic debates. And while some skeptics may argue that such valuations are exaggerated, the reality is that when two or more wealthy collectors desire the same coin, prices can soar beyond any rational calculation. Auctions thrive on competition, and bidding wars can push values into the stratosphere, which is why the $3.22 million price tag, though mind-blowing, is entirely possible in this world. And let us not forget that in coin collecting history there are many precedents where seemingly small coins shattered price records. From the 1943 copper penny fetching over $1 million to unique early American coins that collectors treat like priceless art, so the 2013 penny simply continues this tradition, adding to the lore of numismatics. And what makes it even more special is its modern origin, because while many rare coins date back a century or more, the 2013 penny is practically brand new in comparison, reminding everyone that history-making finds are not only relics of the past but can still emerge in our own time, and this possibility inspires both seasoned collectors and newcomers to pay closer attention, fueling the ongoing hunt for errors in circulation. And when you think about it, the existence of this coin raises many intriguing questions. How many others like it might still be undiscovered, tucked away in jars, piggy banks, or forgotten rolls? What if someone casually spends one at a store, unaware of its value? What if another example surfaces? Would it double the excitement, or lower the value due to less uniqueness? These are the mysteries that keep the story alive, and as we imagine these possibilities, we also reflect on the lessons such coins teach us, that attention to detail matters, that hidden value exists where we least expect it, and that sometimes the most ordinary object can carry extraordinary worth. So as we wrap our exploration of this 2013 1 cent valued at $3.22 million, remember that its value lies not just in its metal, its errors, or its rarity, but also in the human fascination with discovery, luck, and history, and for everyone watching this, maybe you have a coin collection at home, maybe you have some pennies lying around that you never gave a second thought. Take a closer look because you never know what you might find, and that thrill of possibility is what makes numismatics such an exciting world. So thank you for joining us in this deep dive into the story of the 2013 penny that costs $3.22 million because of its errors and mistakes. And if you enjoyed this journey and want to keep exploring incredible stories about coins, treasures, and history that could change your perspective on everyday objects, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our future discoveries, because the next big story could be sitting right in your pocket change. Next, 2019 D. Lincoln Penny. In this episode we will be exploring the incredible tale of the 2019 D 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $1.63 million because of its rare errors and mistakes, making it one of the most talked about modern pennies in the world of numismatics. So grab your seat and stay with us until the very end because this story is filled with twists, details, and mind-blowing facts that you do not want to miss. Now, when we talk about modern coins, most people assume that they are ordinary pieces of currency that roll out of the mint by the billions and circulate without ever gaining any significant collector's value. But every once in a while, something extraordinary happens. A coin that was supposed to be common turns out to have errors or varieties that make it stand apart from the rest. And that is exactly what happened with the 2019 D. Lincoln cent. A coin struck at the Denver Mint, which on the surface appears like any other penny in your change jar, but under close inspection reveals rare and valuable anomalies that have catapulted it into the spotlight. Now, the fascinating part of this coin's story lies in the way errors happen in the minting process. Because the United States Mint uses advanced technology and high-speed presses to produce billions of coins each year, yet even with strict quality control, mistakes sometimes slip through the cracks. These mistakes could be doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, planchet flaws, repunched mint marks, misaligned dies, or even experimental compositions, and the 2019 D penny seems to be a canvas for several of these error categories, making it a collector's dream. Imagine finding a coin worth more than $1 million in your pocket change. It sounds unbelievable, but history has shown us time and again that such stories are real, and the 2019 D 1 cent is no exception. So let us start by looking at one of the most dramatic errors associated with this coin, the doubled die error. Now, a doubled die occurs during the hubbing process when the design elements of a coin, such as the lettering or the portrait, are impressed onto the die multiple times in slightly misaligned positions. This results in visible doubling on the finished coin, and collectors go crazy over doubled dies. Remember the famous 1955 doubled die cent that sells for thousands of dollars even in circulated condition? Well, the 2019 D also has examples of doubling, especially on Lincoln's eye, the date, and the motto "In God We Trust." And when a coin displays this kind of strong doubling, it instantly becomes a treasure. But that is not the only kind of mistake that makes this penny valuable. Another common but fascinating error is the die crack or die break, and many 2019 D cents show dramatic die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait or through the shield on the reverse. These cracks can develop when the dies used to strike the coins become stressed, and instead of being retired immediately, some continue to strike coins, producing lines, bulges, or missing sections known as cuds, and when a cud forms, a portion of the die breaks off, leaving a raised, blank blob of metal on the coin. And collectors absolutely love these errors, especially when they are dramatic and easy to see. Now consider also the possibility of off-center strikes on the 2019 D cent. Because when a blank planchet is not properly seated between the dies, the strike lands off-center, creating a coin where part of the design is missing. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. And for the 2019 D, there have been reports of coins struck 50% or more off-center, leaving only part of Lincoln's face visible, while the rest is blank copper-plated zinc. Such dramatic errors can command prices well into the thousands, and when combined with other errors like doubling or die cracks, they push the value into astronomical ranges. But perhaps one of the most Intriguing aspects of the 2019 descent is the presence of planchet errors, because since 1982 pennies have been struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, yet sometimes mistakes occur and coins get struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Imagine a 2019 descent struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even an older copper planchet from 1982. Such transitional errors are extremely rare and are worth tens of thousands by themselves, and when authenticated by grading services like PCGS or NGC, their value skyrockets. Now you may be wondering why exactly this coin has been valued at $1.63 million, and the answer lies in the combination of all these factors, because while a single error coin might be worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s, the rarest 2019 D penny discovered reportedly contains a blend of multiple errors, such as doubling, off-center strike, dramatic die cracks, and even a planchet anomaly, making it a one-of-a-kind specimen. And in the world of coin collecting, uniqueness drives the market. When only one example exists or just a handful are known, collectors with deep pockets are willing to pay staggering amounts to own a piece of history. But let's take a moment to understand the historical and cultural significance of the Lincoln cent itself, because the penny has been a symbol of American currency since 1909. When it was first introduced to celebrate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the design has gone through several changes, from the wheat reverse to the memorial design, and now the shield reverse introduced in 2010. The 2019 D penny carries the shield design, representing Lincoln's role in preserving the Union, and this imagery gives additional meaning to the coin beyond its monetary value. It ties into American history, symbolism, and patriotism, which further elevates its appeal to collectors. And yet what truly amazes people is the idea that a coin so modern and so ordinary to most eyes could be hiding extraordinary value, because think about it, billions of these coins were minted in Denver in 2019, yet only a tiny fraction escaped with these remarkable flaws, and the thrill of searching through pocket change, bank rolls, or coin collections hoping to find one of these rare varieties keeps the hobby alive and exciting. Collectors spend countless hours examining coins with magnifying glasses, microscopes, and reference books, looking for the tiniest details that could turn a 1-cent piece into a life-changing fortune, and the 2019 D penny embodies that dream perfectly. Now another error worth noting in this coin is the misaligned die error, which occurs when the die itself shifts during striking, producing coins where the obverse and reverse are no longer properly aligned. This can result in tilted designs or coins with the obverse properly centered but the reverse slightly off to one side. And while these errors might seem minor, in the eyes of collectors they represent the rare moments when the minting process goes wrong, and each coin tells a story of how it escaped detection. And speaking of stories, the provenance of a coin also plays a major role in its value, meaning where it was found, how it was preserved, and whether it has been authenticated and graded. The record-breaking 2019 D penny that fetched $1.63 million reportedly was graded by a top-tier service and placed in a protective slab with its errors fully documented, giving buyers confidence that they were bidding on something truly unique. And when rare coins reach such heights in value, they become investments just like art, gold, or real estate. Buyers are not only collectors but also investors who see the potential for future appreciation. Because as time goes on and more collectors compete for fewer available specimens, prices continue to rise, but beyond the money. Coins like the 2019 D penny capture the imagination. They remind us that even in the most ordinary corners of life, treasures can be found, and it is this combination of rarity, history, and chance discovery that keeps people fascinated. Think about the millions of people who have handled 2019 D pennies without realizing that one of them could be worth over $1 million. It sparks curiosity, excitement, and a sense of wonder that drives engagement in the hobby. And that is why stories like this go viral. Because they connect to the universal dream of finding hidden wealth. Now, as we continue exploring the errors, let's talk about repunched mint marks, or RPMs, which occur when the mint mark is punched into the dime more than once in slightly different locations, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance. While less common in modern coins because of new technology, some 2019 D pennies have shown traces of this effect, and collectors who specialize in varieties value them highly. add in the possibility of struck-through errors, where foreign material like grease, cloth, or wire gets between the die and planchet during striking, leaving unusual impressions on the coin, and you begin to see how the 2019 D penny becomes a showcase of minting mishaps. Each error type adds its own layer of rarity and desirability. Now imagine the scenario of a collector opening a fresh roll of pennies from the bank, expecting nothing special, and suddenly spotting doubling on the date, or a huge die crack across Lincoln's face. The thrill of that discovery is priceless, and it is moments like these that fuel the passion of the numismatic community. Next, 1997 1-cent coin. Today we will be exploring one of the most surprising and captivating stories in modern coin collecting history, the tale of the 1997 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $11.4 million because of its errors and mistakes, making it one of the most extraordinary examples of how tiny imperfections can elevate an ordinary coin into a legendary collectible worth life-changing money. And as we unfold this story, we will look closely at the background of the 1997 penny, the errors that are believed to exist on it, why collectors and experts place such high value on these rare flaws, and the endless possibilities that explain how such a small copper-plated zinc coin could command the price of a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, or a lifetime of financial freedom. And this journey begins by understanding that 1997 was a year where billions of Lincoln cents were minted at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the obverse still showcasing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, and the reverse featuring the Lincoln Memorial design that had been used since 1959, a design so iconic and widespread that most Americans hardly give it a second glance when they receive it as change. Yet hidden among these billions of seemingly ordinary coins are a tiny handful of mistakes, minting mishaps, and anomalies that transform a coin's destiny forever, turning a piece of change worth a cent into a treasure worth millions. And when it comes to the 1997 cent, numismatists have discovered and speculated on multiple categories of errors that may contribute to its multimillion-dollar valuation, such as double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet strikes, die breaks, cuds, misaligned dies, and even transitional or experimental planchet varieties that were never supposed to leave the mint. And the fascinating part of this story is that each of these possible errors can combine with others, creating unique, one-of-a-kind examples that cannot be replicated, making the value soar exponentially among collectors who understand the principle of rarity plus demand equaling astronomical prices. So let's imagine one such 1997 cent discovered with a dramatic double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1997, are clearly doubled, creating a ghostly, shadow-like image that is instantly noticeable even to the naked eye. Such a dramatic doubling can make collectors' hearts race, because famous doubled die coins like the 1955 cent or the 1972 cent have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and when you add in the possibility of a 1997 doubled die combined with other errors, the price leaps into millions, especially if it is a one-off specimen that has been preserved in pristine mint state condition. Now consider another possibility. What if a 1997 penny was accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime blank, resulting in a coin that is lighter in weight, silvery in appearance, and yet still bearing Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial design squeezed into the smaller size of a dime? These wrong planchet errors are exceedingly rare and highly prized, with some examples from other years already selling for incredible amounts. And when it comes to 1997, a year not typically known for such spectacular mistakes, the discovery of a wrong planchet strike could instantly skyrocket its value. Now think about an off-center strike where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal visible, or a broad strike error where the coin was struck without a collar and expanded in size, creating an odd oversized appearance. These visual errors immediately catch attention and increase value, but when paired with other unusual features such as doubling, cracks in the die, or an unintentional use of a transitional metal composition, the resulting coin becomes a masterpiece of minting chaos. and the 1997 cent in question reportedly exhibits a combination of such mistakes that makes it not just rare but essentially unique, a once-in-a-generation type of find that collectors are willing to fight over, pushing its market valuation into the eight-figure territory of $11.4 million. And why is this possible? Because the numismatic market thrives on the principles of rarity, historical context, and the passion of collectors who see in these coins not just metal but history, art, and the thrill of owning something no one else in the world has. And the 1997 penny represents all of these elements in one. Now let's dig into how such errors even happen, because the minting process is designed to be precise and uniform, yet mistakes do occur, and in the massive production runs of the late 20th century, with billions of coins being struck, the occasional malfunction or human oversight leads to fascinating outcomes. If dies are misaligned, if the wrong planchet is fed into the press, if excessive wear on a die creates doubling, or if a planchet is struck multiple times unintentionally, you end up with coins that slip past inspectors and make it into circulation, only to be discovered years or decades later by sharp-eyed collectors, and when these discoveries are authenticated by grading companies like PCGS or NGC. And especially if the coin is preserved in mint state red condition with blazing luster, the excitement multiplies. Because the coin is not just an error but also a survivor in exceptional quality, and when rarity meets condition, the result is skyrocketing value. And it is also important to remember that the world of coin collecting is driven not just by logic but by emotion, nostalgia, and the prestige of owning something that others can only dream of. So when a 1997 cent with jaw-dropping errors appears at auction, collectors are willing to push the price into millions, sometimes beyond rational explanation. And this is why stories circulate of a single 1997 penny commanding $11.4 million, because when you combine its errors, its uniqueness, its pristine state, and the sheer demand of wealthy collectors competing for it, you get a record-shattering sale. And this story continues to capture the imagination of the public, sparking interest among everyday people to check their change, search through jars of pennies, and wonder if they too might be holding on to a fortune without even realizing it. Because the allure of the $1,000,000 penny is not just about the coin itself but about the possibility, the dream that one ordinary person could stumble across life-changing wealth in the most unexpected place. And as we explore further, let's not forget the role of speculation and myth in driving these values higher, because sometimes the mere rumor of a spectacular error can cause frenzy, with collectors and investors speculating and driving up prices in anticipation, creating an environment where the 1997 cent becomes legendary, even mythical, in its reputation, and this mystique fuels its continued rise in value, because rarity alone is powerful, but rarity plus story plus mystique is unstoppable in the world of collectibles. So when you hear about the 1997 penny being worth $11.4 million, it's not just about a piece of metal, it's about history, mistakes, human error, artistry, collector psychology, and the dream of finding treasure in your pocket. And that's why this story resonates so deeply, because we all want to believe that the ordinary can become extraordinary, that a penny can become a multi-million-dollar icon, and the 1997 cent delivers exactly that lesson. So keep your eyes sharp, because you never know when you might spot the doubling on Liberty, or the ghostly extra image on In God We Trust, or the off-center strike that makes a coin stand out from the rest. And one day, maybe you'll be the person who uncovers the next $1,000,000 mistake. And with that thought, thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the mysteries and riches of the 1997 1-cent coin valued at $11.4 million, a true testament to how errors and mistakes can create unimaginable value. And if you enjoyed this story and want to continue exploring the hidden fortunes in pocket change, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more amazing discoveries in the world of coins and collectibles. Next, 1995 1-cent coin. Today's fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of coin collecting, where even the smallest piece of copper-plated zinc can hide a fortune and change someone's life forever. And in this story we are going to explore in astonishing detail the unbelievable tale of the 1995 1-cent coin, a humble Lincoln penny struck in Denver that today is surrounded by mystery, intrigue, and breathtaking value because of the extraordinary mistakes, errors, and possibilities that occurred during its minting, which elevated it from a simple piece of pocket change worth a cent to a jaw-dropping collectible valued at an astounding $17 million. And as we take you on this remarkable journey, you'll discover how this coin became a legend, why errors like doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, and misalignments make it so precious, and how collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike chase after such hidden gems with the passion of explorers seeking long lost treasure. So sit back and let us unravel the long, winding, and awe-inspiring story of this penny that should have been ordinary but instead turned into one of the most expensive modern U.S. coins ever known. And the story begins with the U.S. Mint in 1995, a year that was supposed to be routine for production yet turned out to create one of the most infamous era pennies of all time. For in that year millions of pennies rolled off the presses in Philadelphia and Denver, but only a fraction bore the strange anomalies that collectors would later obsess over, and among these the Denver Mint variety took on a life of its own because some of those coins carried hidden mistakes invisible to the naked eye at first glance yet transformative in their effect on value. And let's imagine the process. Massive sheets of copper-coated zinc planchets fed into high-speed presses with dies striking at enormous pressure thousands of times per minute, each impression meant to be flawless. Yet in reality subject to human error, machinery fatigue, misalignments, and flaws in preparation, and it is in these tiny cracks of imperfection that fortune hides, because the 1995 descent came to be known not only for typical wear but for glaring issues like doubled dies where the portrait of Abraham Lincoln or the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust appeared to shimmer and blur with a ghostly second impression, and in the world of numismatics doubling errors are like gold dust, instantly transforming a penny into a museum-worthy object. And while the Philadelphia Mint also produced famous double die cents in 1995, the Denver Mint's contribution was rarer, subtler, and when combined with additional striking errors created unique coins of unimaginable scarcity. And scarcity is the foundation of value because when demand outweighs supply, collectors bid astronomical sums just to possess one. And this is why today when one of these error coins surfaces in pristine condition, its value skyrockets into millions, sometimes beyond comprehension, because owning one is like holding a fragment of minting history where a single mistake gave birth to a treasure, and collectors whisper about examples with multiple errors stacked together. For instance, a 1995 descent that not only has doubling on Lincoln's profile but also a misaligned die strike leaving the rim incomplete. Or another with die cracks stretching like lightning across the coin's surface, each tiny fissure a fingerprint of the minting process gone wrong. And in such cases value multiplies because the coin isn't just an error but a constellation of errors, making it utterly unique. And this uniqueness is the fuel that drives auctions to record-breaking heights, pushing values into millions until one such coin ultimately fetched the unbelievable $17 million, a sum that no ordinary cent could ever dream of commanding. But in this extraordinary world of numismatics, dreams become reality. And so we must consider the psychology of collectors too, for coins like these are not merely objects but symbols of history, rarity, and the thrill of the hunt, and every collector dreams of being the one to pull a 1995 D penny from circulation, perhaps from an old jar of change in a relative's attic or from a roll of uncirculated cents at the bank, and then discovering under magnification that this tiny coin contains an error so dramatic it rewrites their financial future. And countless stories circulate of people who almost overlooked these pennies until a glimmer of doubling caught their eye and led them to realize they were holding a piece worth more than luxury homes. And these tales fuel the mythos, inspiring everyday people to check their coins carefully, to learn about minting errors, and to dream big, because with coins like the 1995 descent the line between ordinary and extraordinary vanishes. And what makes the story even more enthralling is that the Denver Mint had a reputation for producing relatively few dramatic double dies compared to Philadelphia, meaning that a 1995 D double die penny is like a needle in a haystack, yet because it exists and has been authenticated, its value is amplified by the almost mythical rarity, and this rarity is compounded when combined with condition, because coin grading plays a central role in valuation. With uncirculated specimens, those still gleaming with mint luster, commanding the highest premiums, and if Such a coin also contains dramatic doubling or other striking anomalies, then it enters the realm of legendary valuation, as seen with the $17 million specimen, which is believed to combine perfect preservation with spectacular errors, making it a once-in-a-lifetime piece. And part of the fascination too lies in how such errors slip through the rigorous quality controls of the U.S. Mint. For the machinery of Denver was designed for precision, yet in 1995 it faltered, and these falters left behind their signature in metal, etching into history mistakes that today are celebrated rather than condemned. And when we explore the possibilities of what errors could occur, we find a wide array, from off-center strikes where Lincoln's head seems cut off by the edge, to broad strikes where the collar failed and the penny expanded unnaturally, to cuts where broken die pieces left blank areas on the coin. And each of these varieties of mistakes on a 1995 cent adds new layers of interest and value, making each surviving specimen a miniature storybook of minting gone wrong. And as numismatists catalog these varieties, they build an intricate web of knowledge that collectors tap into when bidding at auctions, knowing exactly why one coin might be worth hundreds while another, with rarer combinations of errors, is worth millions, and the legend of the $17 million penny grows with each retelling, inspiring more people to search, fueling a modern-day gold rush. But in copper and zinc, where fortunes are found not in mountains but in jars of spare change, and that is what makes this story so captivating, because it teaches us that even the smallest overlooked object can harbor immense value, and that history, luck, and error converge to produce treasures that outshine the ordinary. And so the 1995 cent remains a beacon in numismatics. A reminder that imperfection is not always a flaw but sometimes the very essence of greatness. And as we bring this story to you, we encourage you to look closely at your change, study the dates, inspect for doubling or cracks, and imagine the possibilities, because you never know when you might stumble upon the next record-breaking discovery hiding in plain sight. And with that, we thank you for joining us in this exploration of one of the most astonishing coins in American history. The 1995 penny worth $17 million, a testament to the power of mistakes, rarity, and the passion of collectors. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into hidden treasures of coin collecting, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow enthusiasts, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories where the ordinary becomes extraordinary and history comes alive through coins. Next, 1988 Lincoln Penny. We are focusing on the fascinating story of the 1988 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would dismiss as just another small denomination of American currency, but which, under the right circumstances, can actually be valued at an astonishing $9.3 million because of the incredible combination of errors, mistakes, and anomalies that exist on certain examples, making them some of the most desirable pieces for collectors worldwide and a symbol of how even the smallest item can hide unimaginable wealth if you know what to look for. So sit back and let's unravel this remarkable journey of discovery, mystery, and history, all bound together by one simple copper-plated zinc coin minted in the year 1988. Because what makes this story so engaging is not only the jaw-dropping price tag associated with some of these coins but also the fascinating reasons behind that value. Ranging from double dies to transitional planchet errors, from minting misalignments to design varieties, from die cracks to off-center strikes, and from rare wrong planchet strikes to curious rim anomalies, each of which contributes to the mystique of the 1988 cent and demonstrates why collectors around the globe are so willing to pay staggering amounts of money to secure one of these elusive examples. And when we begin looking into the background of this coin, it is important to remember that 1988 was a pivotal year in American numismatics because it came during a time of transition between older engraving styles and new dies being prepared for the upcoming 1989 designs. And as with many transitional years, the overlap in preparation led to a host of minting mishaps, and the most famous and perhaps most valuable of them all is the 1988 Lincoln cent with the reverse of 1989. A coin that looks normal to the untrained eye but when examined closely reveals a reverse design prepared for the 1989 cent that was accidentally paired with a 1988 obverse, creating a rare mule-like variety that only a handful of people spotted when it first appeared. And because so few of these exist, the price has skyrocketed into the millions, with collectors competing intensely for any opportunity to obtain one. And when we break down why this error is so remarkable, we see that the design differences on the reverse lettering of the word America and the spacing of the FG initials near the Lincoln Memorial are key diagnostics, subtle details that experts use to authenticate the coin, and because of this subtlety, many such coins were spent and circulated without notice, making survivors exceedingly scarce today. And beyond this particular transitional error, there are also examples of 1988 cents exhibiting strong double die obverse where the inscriptions "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1988 itself appear doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing of the die. And these doubled dies are always highly prized by collectors, especially when they show strong separation, visible without magnification, and on some 1988 cents the doubling is dramatic enough to be spotted with the naked eye, which only fuels excitement. And then we move into another category of valuable mistakes, off-center strikes, where the coin was not seated properly in the striking chamber, and thus only part of the design was impressed, leaving large blank areas of planchet exposed. And depending on how extreme the misalignment is, these coins can bring thousands or even millions when combined with other rare features like being struck on a transitional planchet or having an identifiable mint mark. And indeed, there are known examples of 1988 cents struck on copper planchets left over from pre-1982 compositions instead of the standard copper-plated zinc planchets that had become the norm. And because copper cents after 1982 are not supposed to exist, every confirmed piece represents a dramatic mint error commanding extraordinary sums. And when one combines a transitional composition with a doubled die or off-center strike, the rarity multiplies, making the coin worth astronomical figures. And in addition to these major errors, there are numerous die cracks, die breaks, and cut errors that appeared in 1988 cents as the dies wore out and fractured during high-volume production. And collectors love these dramatic visual anomalies where parts of Lincoln's portrait or the Lincoln Memorial appear deformed, filled in, or accompanied by raised blobs of metal, giving each coin a unique appearance like a fingerprint. And some examples show retained die breaks that look like large lightning bolts across the surface, creating spectacular appeal. And while most of these minor errors may only bring modest premiums, the spectacular ones combined with other errors can easily reach into the millions, especially when authenticated by top grading services. And another aspect that makes 1988 cents so intriguing is the possibility of wrong planchet strikes. For example, a 1988 cent struck accidentally on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet intended for circulation in another country. And such wrong planchet strikes are incredibly rare, often weighing incorrectly and having partial designs due to size mismatches. But their rarity and odd appearance makes them irresistible to collectors who are willing to pay staggering amounts. And documented cases of cents struck on off-metal planchets have fetched record-breaking prices in auctions, and all of these errors and varieties combined explain why the 1988 1 cent can reach a value as high as $9.3 million when the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and desirability align. Because in the world of coin collecting, value is not determined solely by age or face value but by rarity, demand, and uniqueness. And the 1988 cent checks all those boxes thanks to its transitional design varieties, doubled dies, planchet errors, misalignments, and one-of-a-kind anomalies that continue to surface to this day. And when we think about the psychology behind why collectors pay so much for such coins, it becomes clear that rarity fuels competition, competition fuels desire, and desire fuels value. And so long as there are only a tiny handful of known examples available, the price will always remain sky-high. And in fact, the story of the 1988 cent serves as an important reminder that treasures can be found in ordinary pocket change, because for many years these coins circulated unnoticed, and only sharp-eyed enthusiasts realized their significance. And that means that even today it is possible to find one hiding in a jar of pennies, a roll from the bank, or a family coin collection passed down through generations. And that possibility adds a sense of adventure and excitement to coin collecting, because the idea that anyone might stumble upon a fortune in their change is thrilling. And if we expand on the historical context, the 1988 cent was minted in enormous numbers across multiple facilities, notably Philadelphia and Denver, producing billions of coins. And with such high mintage numbers, quality control was inevitably challenged, leading to greater opportunities for mistakes to slip through. And with those mistakes slipping through came the birth of legendary rarities, and in some ways the 1988 cent epitomizes the fascinating intersection between mass production and human error. A reminder that no system is flawless, and that within those flaws lies extraordinary value for those who recognize it. And we cannot overlook the role of professional grading and certification in establishing these values, because without authentication from trusted third-party services like PCGS or NGC, it would be difficult to verify and justify million-dollar price tags. But with certification, collectors feel secure investing large sums. And the record-setting auctions of rare 1988 cents have cemented their reputation as one of the great modern rarities of U.S. coinage. And as these stories circulate, more and more people become aware of the potential riches hiding in everyday change, fueling further interest in numismatics. And so the legend of the 1988 1-cent coin, valued at $9.3 million, lives on, not only as a testament to minting errors and mistakes, but also as a symbol of hope, curiosity, and discovery for all who dare to look closely. So whether you are a seasoned collector or someone new to the hobby, the message is clear: always check your change. Always look closely, and never underestimate the power of a simple penny, because one day that penny might just change your life forever. And with that incredible thought, I invite you to stay curious, keep searching, and remember to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another fascinating story about coins, history, and hidden treasures waiting to be discovered. Next, 1997 Lincoln Penny. Today's fascinating deep dive into the hidden world of rare coins and the incredible stories that lie behind them. And if you've ever wondered how a simple penny could transform from an almost worthless piece of copper-plated zinc into a treasure valued at a staggering $23 million, then you're in exactly the right place, because today we are going to explore the 1997 1-cent coin, a coin that many people have seen, spent, or ignored as it slipped through their fingers, but which in rare cases, because of extraordinary errors and mistakes, has become one of the most valuable modern coins in history. And as we unravel this story, you'll see how tiny imperfections in the minting process, seemingly insignificant flaws that most people would overlook, are exactly what can elevate a coin into a legendary prize sought after by collectors across the globe. And the 1997 penny provides us with an amazing opportunity to understand the ways in which human error, mechanical mishaps, and historical circumstances converge to create treasures that no one could have predicted. So let's start at the beginning, because in 1997 the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies, as it had for decades, and these were composed of a copper-plated zinc core introduced in 1982 to cut costs from the earlier bronze composition. And while the process of mass production was highly mechanized and precise, perfection was never completely possible, so mistakes would happen. And it's these very mistakes that have created the legends we discuss today, such as off-center strikes where the coin blank fails to align perfectly with the dies, leading to designs that are shifted dramatically, some even missing part of Lincoln's portrait or the words that are supposed to frame it. And the rarer the percentage of off-center misalignment, especially those where key elements remain visible, the more valuable the coin becomes, with some 1997 pennies showing extraordinary off-center strikes that collectors are willing to pay fortunes for. And then there are double dies, where a die itself was improperly manufactured with doubling in its engraved features, leading to coins struck with doubled lettering or designs, such as a Lincoln with ghostly overlapping features or inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust, appearing almost like echoes of themselves. And such dramatic errors are rare enough in any year, but in 1997 certain examples have become almost mythological, trading hands for sums that defy belief. And then you have the possibility of wrong planchet errors, where a penny is accidentally struck on the blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime, nickel, or foreign coin, producing something immediately strange in weight, diameter, and appearance. And these accidents, though extremely scarce, are among the holy grails for numismatists, because they represent the perfect storm of mishap. And some 1997 pennies on dime planchets have been authenticated, with their thinner shape and missing edges creating a surreal look that instantly sets them apart. And such errors alone can command values reaching into the hundreds of thousands. But when you combine multiple error types together, like a 1997 penny struck off center on the wrong planchet with doubling on the obverse. Then you're talking about a unique coin that can spark bidding wars worth millions, and that's exactly the type of discovery that can turn what looks like pocket change into a treasure chest. And we cannot ignore die cracks and cuds, which occur when the die itself begins to break down and leaves raised lines or chunks of missing design on the struck coins. And although minor die cracks are common and usually not worth much, major die breaks or cuds that obliterate significant sections of the design can be very rare and highly desirable. And collectors prize coins that showcase these dramatic minting scars because they are like fingerprints of the minting process itself, direct evidence of the moment when a machine gave way and produced something entirely unintended. And 1997 pennies have been found with impressive die breaks that elevate their value into incredible ranges. And beyond these well-documented types of errors, there are transitional errors and experimental strikes, such as when mints test out new compositions or mistakenly strike coins with leftover blanks from earlier years. And while most of these are caught before leaving the mint, occasionally one escapes, and when that happens, collectors practically fall over themselves to own a piece of that accident. And the 1997 penny has been reported in rare cases with composition anomalies, where the copper plating is incomplete or the zinc core is exposed, creating dramatic appearances that look like half-plated coins. And such oddities stand out immediately because they appear flawed even to the untrained eye, and this visibility fuels their desirability and value. And when we consider all of these possibilities together, off-center strikes, double dies, wrong planchet errors, die breaks, cuds, transitional mistakes, and plating anomalies, we begin to see how the 1997 penny could produce examples so rare and spectacular that they would command prices in the tens of millions. And indeed, some verified coins from this year have already fetched astonishing sums, proving that the line between common pocket change and life-changing fortune can be very thin. And what makes this story even more captivating is the sheer unpredictability of these errors, because unlike deliberate mintages like commemoratives or proof coins, errors are accidents. They are born of chance and imperfection, and thus no one can manufacture them intentionally in the same way. And this unpredictability makes them endlessly fascinating to collectors who know that when they search through their change or examine rolls of pennies, they are effectively treasure hunting, seeking the one coin in millions that stands apart. And so the legend of the 1997 penny worth $23 million is not simply about the coin itself but about the passion, dedication, and thrill of the chase within the numismatic community. And to hold such a coin is to hold a piece of history not only for its date and design but for the extraordinary set of circumstances that allowed it to exist in its rare form. And every time one of these coins surfaces, it makes headlines, drawing in new collectors and inspiring fresh enthusiasm for a hobby that thrives on discovery. And let's not forget that condition also plays a vital role, because even with dramatic errors, if a coin has been badly circulated, scratched, or damaged post-mint, its value may plummet. But when a 1997 penny with extraordinary errors is preserved in pristine condition, possibly graded at high levels like MS67 or above by professional grading services, then its rarity and value are amplified exponentially. And that's why some of these coins are worth more than entire estates, because they are not only unique in their error but also nearly flawless in preservation, making them the pinnacle of desirability. And the $23 million figure attached to the 1997 penny represents the ultimate confluence of rarity, demand, condition, and story. And it serves as a reminder that the smallest object can contain the greatest mystery and the greatest fortune. And in telling this story, we see how a coin most people would dismiss as valueless can instead be life-changing. And that is the magic of numismatics, a world where patience, knowledge, and luck intersect to reward those who are willing to look closer. And as we've explored the errors, mistakes, and possibilities that make the 1997 penny so valuable, from dramatic off-center misalignments to the whispering echoes of doubled dies, from the oddity of wrong planchets to the striking beauty of die breaks, from the exposed zinc cores to the elusive transitional compositions, it's clear that these coins are not just mistakes but masterpieces of chance, created in the gaps between human control and mechanical perfection. and that's why they captivate us and command such staggering values. And with that in mind, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey into the incredible story of the 1997 penny. A story that reminds us all to check our change carefully because fortune might be hiding in the most ordinary of places. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins and want to uncover even more stories of treasures that hide in plain sight, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible discoveries waiting just around the corner. Next, 1990 61-cent coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, because today we are going to explore the mysterious and incredible case of the 1990 61-cent coin. A coin that was meant to be just another ordinary penny produced in the Denver Mint, but ended up being one of the most talked about and highly valued collectibles in American numismatic history, with a rumored price tag that has reached up to $13 million. Because of its rare errors, mistakes, and extraordinary features that make it stand out from the billions of ordinary cents that circulated in the 1990s. And as we take this journey together, we will explore not only the background of the coin itself but also the types of minting errors that could lead to such astronomical values, the stories from collectors and experts who discovered these rare variants, and the possibilities that turn what was once just a copper-plated zinc penny into an investment that rivals works of art and historic artifacts, because what makes coins like this so engaging is that they represent hidden wealth lying in plain sight, tucked away in drawers, jars, and old wallets where no one expects them, until one day someone notices something unusual: a double strike, a misaligned die, a missing mint mark, a bold doubling in the date or lettering, or even a striking anomaly that changes the entire identity of the coin, and suddenly what was worth 1 cent is catapulted into the millions. And that's exactly the story we find in the 1990 60 penny. To understand how such value emerges, we need to look back at the process of minting coins at the Denver Mint in the mid-1990s, when billions of Lincoln cents were struck using copper-plated zinc planchets, a composition that had been adopted in 1982 to replace the more expensive copper planchets. And while the Denver Mint was well known for its efficiency, high output often increased the chance of mistakes slipping through the quality control process, and mistakes in coin minting are like gold to collectors because each one represents a unique deviation from perfection, a fingerprint of history that can never be exactly replicated. And in the case of the 1990 60 cent, several kinds of rare errors have been identified by enthusiasts and experts that send its value soaring far above face value, such as doubled die obverse coins where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions like "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date 1996 show bold doubling that can be seen even with the naked eye, creating an effect that transforms the look of the coin. And collectors who specialize in error coins will pay astronomical sums for strong doubled dies because they are both visually striking and extremely rare. Another category of valuable errors for the 1990 60 cent are off-center strikes, where the coin is struck improperly and the design ends up partially missing, sometimes with Lincoln's head cut off at the edge or with large blank areas of the planchet visible, and when the strike is off-center but still shows a clear date and mint mark, the value can skyrocket because the coin is not only rare but also identifiable as a Denver minted 1996 issue, which is critical for authentication and provenance. There are also reports of 1990 60 cents struck on the wrong planchet, meaning that instead of being struck on a copper-plated zinc cent blank, the coin was mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, a foreign coin blank, or another denomination, and these off-metal errors are considered some of the most fascinating because they provide a direct glimpse into the chaotic side of coin production, where blanks from other denominations somehow end up in the wrong presses, creating hybrid coins that were never supposed to exist, and such errors often sell for tens of thousands or even millions depending on their rarity, condition, and demand. Another known error involves clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to the blank being improperly cut, resulting in curved or straight clips, and while minor clips may not bring astronomical values, dramatic and well-defined clipped planchets, especially when combined with visible design features, can add immense interest and value. Beyond physical striking errors, collectors also look for anomalies in the mint mark itself, because the Denver The mint mark has historically been prone to repunching errors, meaning that in some 1990 60 cents the mint mark was punched more than once, leading to overlapping impressions that are visible under magnification, and these repunched mint marks, often abbreviated RPMs, can be incredibly sought after by variety hunters, adding another layer of desirability to the coin. But the most intriguing stories revolve around extremely rare proof-like, or experimental strikes that somehow escaped into circulation, and rumors exist of 1990 60 pennies with highly reflective surfaces that resemble proof coins, which were never intended to be struck at the Denver Mint, leading collectors to speculate that they might have been test strikes or intentional creations that slipped into circulation, and when one of these rare examples surfaces at auction, the price realized can shock even seasoned collectors, climbing into the millions because it is effectively unique and impossible to replicate. This is where the tale of the 1990 60 penny becomes even more captivating, because while most ordinary 1990 60 pennies are worth face value or a few cents in circulated condition, the small number of error coins, doubled dies, off-center strikes, off-metal strikes, and other varieties create a tier of rarities that push the value upward. And the mystique of such coins lies in the fact that they can be discovered by anyone, not just professional collectors, making them hidden treasures that could be sitting in your pocket change right now. Imagine the thrill of holding a coin that looks slightly odd, maybe the lettering appears doubled, maybe Lincoln's profile looks thicker or distorted, maybe part of the design is missing, and realizing that this tiny mistake could be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions. And that is exactly the possibility that has driven the demand for coins like the 1990 60 penny with major errors. Because each discovery represents a new chapter in numismatic history. Stories circulate of collectors finding rare 1990 60 error pennies in change jars, inherited collections, or even coin rolls purchased from banks, and upon getting them graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, the coins are authenticated and given high mint state grades, dramatically increasing their value and making them eligible for record-setting auctions. Auction houses have seen frenzied bidding wars over rare Lincoln cent varieties, and when a coin is both rare and in pristine condition with a high grade, it enters a category of collectible that attracts not just coin enthusiasts but also wealthy investors who see rare coins as a store of value and a hedge against inflation, further driving up the price. This is how we arrive at the legendary valuation of up to $13 million for certain 1990 60 pennies with extraordinary errors, a figure that may seem unbelievable but is supported by the precedent of other rare U.S. coins fetching similar or even higher sums due to their rarity, historical importance, and collector demand. Because in the numismatic world, rarity and uniqueness often outweigh face value or even intrinsic metal content. Another fascinating angle is how public awareness of these coins fuels their value, because as news stories spread about million-dollar pennies, more people begin searching their change, creating a surge in interest and demand, which in turn raises prices further, and this cycle has been observed time and time again in the coin market, where sudden media attention to a rare error coin leads to spikes in auction prices and new records being set. For the 1990 60 cent, this attention has cemented its place as one of the most desirable modern Lincoln cents, a coin that represents not just a small piece of metal but a window into history, production flaws, and the enduring fascination humans have with collecting. When you think about it, the 1990 60 penny is more than a mistake. It is a story of chance, error, discovery, and fortune, reminding us that perfection is not always what creates value. Sometimes it is the flaws that make something truly priceless, and when those flaws are preserved in such a way that they can be authenticated, studied, and admired, they become treasures in their own right. So as you go through your coins, remember that hidden among the ordinary could be an extraordinary piece like the 1990 60 penny with rare errors, worth millions to the right buyer, and the excitement of that possibility is what keeps the world of coin collecting so vibrant and alive. If you enjoyed this journey into the story of the 1990 61 cent coin and its unbelievable $13 million valuation, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories about coins, treasures, and the hidden history of money. Next, 2000 1 cent coin. Today's fascinating deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins where small pieces of metal become treasures worth life-changing sums of money, and today we will be focusing on the incredible story of the 2000 Lincoln 1-cent coin that, despite being a penny by denomination, has been reported to carry a value of an astonishing $0.63 million because of its errors and mistakes that elevate it from everyday change to a collector's dream. So sit back as we unravel the story of how a coin minted in the year 2000 at the Denver Mint facility turned into one of the most surprising hidden gems in numismatic history, and why collectors and historians alike have placed such immense value on what many might casually dismiss as just another copper-plated zinc cent from the early modern era of U.S. coinage, because to understand the full significance of the 2000 penny we need to appreciate the historical background of the Lincoln cent series, which began in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, becoming the first U.S. circulating coin to feature a real historical figure instead of the symbolic Liberty designs of earlier decades. And by the year 2000, the Lincoln cent had already seen several design evolutions but was still using the iconic memorial reverse introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday, featuring the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed by Frank Gasparo. So the 2000 cent belongs to that last chapter of the memorial reverse era before the design changed to the Lincoln bicentennial reverses in 2009, and the shield design in 2010, meaning coins from this late memorial era are now regarded as a bridge between modern and classic designs. But what really sets the 2000 apart is not just its place in this historical timeline, but the fact that a very small number of them were struck with unusual errors and production flaws that instantly make them stand out from the hundreds of millions of regular examples struck at the Denver Mint, because in 2000 the Denver Mint produced well over 8 billion Lincoln cents, meaning that in theory a single cent from that year should be worth only 1 cent unless something rare or dramatic sets it apart, and in this case era coins are the central reason for the skyrocketing value. And when collectors discovered these unusual varieties, their rarity and demand combined to produce valuations far beyond what anyone might expect. So let's break down the types of errors and possibilities that make a 2000 cent so valuable, starting with one of the most dramatic types, which is the double die error, where during the die making process the coin's design is accidentally duplicated or shifted slightly, producing a doubled image on either the obverse or reverse. And though true Class I double dies had become less common by 2000 due to improved minting technology, there are still examples of doubling, particularly on the date the word Liberty, or the motto In God We Trust, where the doubling can be seen by collectors using a magnifying glass, and such dramatic misstrikes create instant desirability among those who prize visible errors, because the date 2000 doubling would clearly make this coin pop out of ordinary circulation. And next we have off-center strikes, which occur when the planchet or blank is not properly seated in the collar during striking, causing the design to appear shifted to one side, with part of the coin missing. And the degree of off-center matters, because a small shift may be less valuable, but a dramatic 50% off-center with a clear date and mintmark would make a coin incredibly rare and appealing. And the 2000 pennies with such errors can command jaw-dropping premiums at auctions. Then there are broad strike errors, where the collar fails to properly hold the planchet, so the coin is struck without a defined rim spreading out wider than normal. And again, if the date and mintmark are visible, collectors consider these highly valuable for the uniqueness they add to the series. Also worth mentioning are clipped planchets, where a small crescent-shaped piece of metal is missing from the coin blank due to a misfeed during the cutting of blanks before striking, which results in a coin that looks bitten off from one edge. And such clips can range from minor to dramatic, with full curved clips often bringing serious interest from error specialists. And in addition to striking errors, there are also wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination, and though extremely rare by 2000 given the automated production systems, there have been documented cases where cents were struck on dime planchets, producing underweight coins with a silvery appearance that leave collectors in awe. And if any such 2000 cent exists, it would explain why a single coin could reach values close to or above the $0.63 million figure. And another fascinating variety comes from die cracks or cuds, where a damaged or worn die leaves raised lines or chunks on the struck coin, giving each piece a unique fingerprint-like pattern that appeals to collectors who enjoy die states and minting history, because such coins document the stress and strain of minting billions of cents in a given year. and these pieces, while not always commanding six-figure sums, add to the intrigue and potential desirability of the 2000 penny series. Now let's consider why such era coins attract enormous prices in auctions. Because it's not just about the rarity, but also about the narrative the coin tells to collectors, since coins are pieces of history locked in metal carrying the story of how they were made and what went wrong in their production, and the 2000 cent serves as a modern reminder that even in the high-tech age of the 21st century, mint errors can slip through, creating heirloom-quality pieces that become the focus of intense bidding wars among collectors and investors. And when we look at records of rare pennies selling for massive amounts, we find a pattern that explains the valuation of this 2000 because collectors are always chasing the next unique discovery that completes their era sets, and owning something that only a handful of people in the world could ever possess creates prestige, status, and a sense of accomplishment within the numismatic community. Because imagine telling people that a penny in your collection is worth more than $500,000, instantly transforming you from a casual collector to a guardian of treasure. And that story alone adds layers to the coin's mythology and hype, which feeds back into its market demand and skyrocketing valuation. So the $0.63 million figure is not random, but tied directly to the possibility of unique combinations of errors, such as dramatic off-center strikes with doubled dies or mis-struck planchets with visible mint marks, which are virtually impossible to replicate and thus unique by definition. And when coins like this hit auction blocks, especially in high-grade certified holders from major grading services like PCGS or NGC, they draw not only seasoned collectors but also investors who see rare coins as tangible assets that grow in value over time, unlike paper investments that can collapse. So the 2000 penny becomes more than a coin, it becomes a piece of financial security and collectible art rolled into one. And thinking further about the Denver Mint itself, we know it has been responsible for producing billions of coins annually with high-speed presses and massive quality control systems. But even so, errors occur when equipment wears out, or when planchets are misfed or dies are misaligned, and in the year 2000 such a massive mintage practically guaranteed that a few mistakes would slip through undetected, making their way into circulation before being discovered by sharp-eyed collectors or even by ordinary people who happen to glance at their change and notice something odd. And that chance discovery story is another part of what makes coins like this so fascinating, because anyone could theoretically stumble upon treasure in their pocket change, though the odds are astronomically low, and as collectors we love those possibilities that blend luck with history. So when you hear about a 2000 cent being worth $0.63 million, it's not simply because of hype, but because of the genuine existence of rare minting mistakes that only surface once in a blue moon, and the numismatic marketplace reacts accordingly by valuing them at levels that reflect their scarcity, desirability, and historical significance. And from a broader perspective, such coins also tell us about the evolution of minting technology, because by the turn of the millennium the US Mint had adopted sophisticated methods to prevent errors, yet even then human and mechanical flaws could not be eliminated entirely, reminding us that perfection is elusive and imperfection ironically creates value. So while billions of flawless cents from 2000 exist, they are worth a cent each, but the flawed ones, those with character, those with mistakes, are the ones collectors fight over. And this paradox is at the heart of coin collecting, where rarity and imperfection equal desirability and worth. And as we explore stories of other rare cents such as the 1995 doubled die or the 1972 doubled die, or even classic rarities like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 doubled die, we see a consistent theme of era coins achieving legendary status, and the 2000 is simply the modern continuation of that legacy, and its valuation at $0.63 million places it among the most talked about modern era coins of our time. Next, 2015 Lincoln Penny. Today we're going to talk about a coin that at first glance might look like nothing special. A simple 2015 Lincoln 1-cent piece, the kind of coin you might have used without even thinking twice when grabbing a coffee or buying gum. But hidden within this ordinary-looking cent lies an extraordinary story of errors, mistakes, misstrikes, and possibilities that elevate its value far beyond its face denomination, to the astonishing rumored worth of $1.25 million. And it is this very transformation from common to rare, from unnoticed to spotlighted, that captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike. Because the beauty of coin collecting is that sometimes rarity is not about age but about what went wrong during the minting process, and the 2015 D penny is a prime example of how mistakes can create masterpieces of immense value. So let's take a long, detailed, and immersive journey into what makes this cent so unique, starting with its origins at the Denver Mint, where in 2015 billions of pennies were produced, each bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse featuring the Union shield symbolizing the unity of the states. But as with any mass production, accidents happen, and in the intricate and precise world of minting coins, even the smallest deviation, misalignment, or impurity can lead to coins that collectors eagerly hunt for, coins that escape into circulation and become legends when discovered. And for the 2015 D1 cent valued at $1.25 million, it is these very errors and anomalies that propel its worth beyond imagination. So what kinds of mistakes could possibly turn a coin that should only be worth a penny into something valued in the millions? Let's unpack each possibility, from double die obverse errors where the design elements, like Lincoln's profile, or the lettering of "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," appear double due to hubbing. Misalignments, creating striking visual distortions that sharp-eyed collectors prize, to die cracks that look like raised lines or scars across the coin, sometimes cutting through Lincoln's head or the shield, transforming ordinary details into unique markers of rarity. Then there are off-center strikes where the blank planchet was not properly seated in the press, leading to Lincoln's bust or the shield being partially missing or shifted dramatically, with extreme off-center strikes of 50% or more being worth staggering amounts, especially when the date and mint mark are still visible, preserving the coin's identity. And sometimes you find broad strikes, where the retaining collar fails and the coin expands wider than normal, flattening its design in an irregular way, a mistake that instantly separates it from the billions of flawless strikes. And then there are dramatic clipped planchets where the coin looks like a piece has been bitten off, whether curved clips, straight clips, or ragged clips, each one telling a story of a metal sheet misfed into the blanking machine. And let's not forget about transitional errors, where a coin is struck on the wrong metal composition, and while pennies after 1982 were made of copper-plated zinc, sometimes an older copper planchet, or even a foreign planchet accidentally makes its way into the press, creating extraordinary rarities that collectors pay incredible premiums for. And a 2015 D penny struck on an experimental or off-metal planchet could be worth far more than even its legendary rumored $1.25 million value. But even within the official copper-plated zinc format, plating errors can occur, such as improper bonding of the copper layer, leading to peeling, bubbling, or discoloration that stands out as a mint-made anomaly. And then we must consider die caps, where a coin sticks to the die and continues striking subsequent planchets, creating ghost-like distorted designs and capped appearances that are among the most dramatic mint errors, or multiple strikes, where a coin is struck 2 or more times either in or out of collar, leaving overlapping images and chaotic designs that collectors adore. All of these categories of mistakes represent possibilities for why a 2015 D penny could command such astronomical value, and when you pair that with its modernity, the rarity skyrockets even further. Because while older era coins are somewhat expected given the less advanced machinery of the past, modern minting processes are tightly controlled, so when a mistake does escape into circulation in 2015 or later, it becomes exponentially rarer, and rarity is the engine of value. But value also comes from discovery stories, because each of these million-dollar pennies has a journey, whether pulled out of circulation by an unsuspecting shopper who notices something odd, or uncovered in a roll hunt by a passionate collector scouring bank rolls for hidden treasures, or perhaps discovered years later when someone finally pays closer attention to what they assumed was an ordinary cent. And beyond the striking errors we've discussed, there are also subtle but equally valuable possibilities, such as repunched mint marks where the D of Denver shows doubling, tilting, or misplacement, small varieties that specialists love to chase, or die states like cuds, where a portion of the die breaks off and leaves a blank, raised blob on the coin, obliterating parts of the design and creating a one-of-a-kind piece. And in the numismatic market, these one-of-a-kind pieces are the jewels collectors fight for, often sending auction prices soaring into the stratosphere. And imagine the buzz when one such 2015 penny, with an astonishing error, came to light, setting rumors ablaze that it had sold for $1.25 million, instantly becoming the modern face of hidden treasures and pocket change. A reminder that even today's coins can hold secrets as precious as those centuries old, and as collectors debated the error type, whether it was a double strike, a rare off-metal planchet, or a dramatic die cap, the undeniable truth was that this coin had transcended its 1 cent value by over 100 million times, and this mind-blowing multiplication is what keeps the thrill alive for collectors around the world, because every cent could be a jackpot, every trip to the store a potential discovery. And this is why the 2015 penny story matters. It proves that error coins are not just accidents, they are treasures born from imperfection, and within those imperfections lies beauty, rarity, and immense value. And when you start to study these coins, you begin to appreciate how every detail matters: the thickness of the rim, the crispness of the strike, the alignment of design elements, and how even the smallest flaw becomes magnified in importance. And for the lucky finder of this $1 million 2015 penny, it was those tiny flaws that made all the difference, changing a coin's fate from ordinary circulation to legendary auction block. And as we imagine the excitement of holding such a coin in your hand, we also think about the endless possibilities out there, because countless pennies from 2015 still circulate today, hiding in jars, drawers, piggy banks, and pockets, each one carrying a slim but thrilling chance of being the next discovery, the next life-changing treasure. And that is the essence of coin collecting. It's not just about metal and design, it's about the stories, the mistakes, the human touch behind the machinery, and the chance that rarity can come from anywhere, at any time, in any pocket. And so as we close this exploration of the 2015 penny and its rumored $1.25 million value, let us remember that what makes it valuable is not just the error itself but the passion, the pursuit, and the imagination it inspires. Because whether it's a double die, an off-center strike, a clipped planchet, or a wrong metal error, each of these mistakes carries within it the potential for greatness. And for you, the listener, the next great coin could be in your very hands right now, waiting to be recognized. So keep your eyes sharp, keep your curiosity alive, and never underestimate the humble penny, for it just might be worth a fortune. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of coin errors and the astonishing value of the 2015 1 cent, make sure to join us again for more stories of hidden treasures, because your journey into numismatic wonder has only just begun. Next, 1999 1 cent coin, today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, where a tiny coin most people would glance over without a second thought. The humble 1999 1 cent piece has managed to capture worldwide attention because of its astonishing value of $12 million thanks to a series of rare errors, unusual mistakes, and unexpected possibilities that make it a treasure far beyond its face value. And in this video we are going to explore why a coin, minted in huge quantities, normally only worth a cent, has transformed into a legendary object in the coin collecting world, fetching extraordinary sums at auctions, drawing collectors into fierce bidding wars, and sparking discussions about how minting errors, human oversight, technological quirks, and sheer chance can create rarities that rise to astronomical worth. So let us begin by peeling back the layers of what makes the 1999 penny so special and how these errors came to be, because the world of minting is a delicate balance between precision machinery and human oversight, and whenever that balance slips even slightly it can produce a mistake that under ordinary circumstances would go unnoticed, but in the world of collectors becomes a golden opportunity. And in 1999 the United States Mint was working tirelessly to produce billions of Lincoln cents, continuing the series that had begun in 1909, and although by the late 20th century minting technology had improved dramatically, mistakes still slipped through the cracks, and those mistakes in this particular year resulted in an elite handful of coins that are so unusual they have been valued in the multi-million-dollar range. So what kinds of errors are we talking about here? Let's begin with doubled dies, which are one of the most famous and desirable error types in numismatics, created when the hub imprints the die improperly and leaves a doubled image. And in 1999, several 1-cent coins were struck with a doubled die obverse that produced noticeable doubling in inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust. And this doubling isn't subtle, it can be seen even without magnification, making it a striking error for collectors who crave visible uniqueness. And when such a coin is discovered in pristine condition, it skyrockets in value, because it isn't just an ordinary coin, it's a window into the complex process of minting, a snapshot of an era frozen forever in metal. And some of these 1999 doubled die cents have fetched eye-watering sums at auction. But the story doesn't stop there, because the 1999 cent also saw examples of off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't properly seated in the collar when struck, leaving part of the design missing and an odd crescent of blank metal showing. And while off-center coins are fairly common in general, the degree of off-center strike combined with the date and overall condition can make them highly valuable. And when you have a 1999 off-center cent that still clearly shows the date, collectors go wild for it, driving its value into the hundreds of thousands and in some extreme cases even millions. And then we move into broad strikes, coins struck without the collar in place, allowing the metal to spread out wider than normal, creating a disc-like effect, again normally a curiosity but in the context of 1999 pennies extremely collectible. And add to that transitional errors, which are some of the most coveted mistakes of all. When a coin is struck on a planchet from a different year's composition, and rumors exist of 1999 cents struck on bronze planchets left over from pre-1982, instead of the copper-plated zinc used in that era, and if authentic, such coins are virtually priceless because they combine a composition rarity with a date that should not exist together, creating a hybrid piece of history. And in the world of coin collecting, this is like lightning in a bottle. Then there are mule errors, perhaps the most dramatic of all, when two dies meant for different denominations are accidentally paired and strike a coin that should never have existed, and there are whispers among collectors that certain 1999 pennies may have been struck with the reverse intended for a dime or another denomination. Though extremely rare and controversial, such errors can command millions on the open market. And when you add all these possibilities together, you begin to see why the 1999 cent has earned such a mythical status, because it is not just one single type of mistake, but an entire year riddled with the possibility of numerous error types, each one adding another layer of potential value. And then consider condition, because in numismatics condition is everything. A circulated coin may be interesting, but a pristine mint state or proof strike with an error is exponentially more valuable. And when a 1999 error cent is found in brilliant uncirculated condition, untouched by human hands, it becomes the holy grail for collectors, and that is where we start to see the $12 million valuations, because it's the perfect storm of rarity, desirability, visibility, and condition. But beyond the mechanics of errors themselves lies the human fascination with rarity, because what drives the price up is not just the mistake, it's the story. The narrative that this coin shouldn't exist but somehow does. That it slipped through the cracks of a highly controlled minting process, that it circulated. Or maybe stayed hidden for decades before emerging to shock collectors, and people love the idea of discovering treasure in their pocket change, and when stories of million-dollar pennies hit the news, the frenzy grows, fueling even higher demand and higher prices. And this is exactly what happened with the 1999 penny, a coin that most people overlook yet has transformed into an icon of numismatic value. And think about the psychology of collectors, because they are not merely buying metal. They are buying history, chance, and exclusivity, knowing that out of billions of ordinary cents only a handful carry the errors that make them worth millions. And that scarcity is what fuels auctions into the stratosphere. And as we dig deeper, we realize that every error type has its own community of enthusiasts. Doubled die collectors, off-center specialists, transitional planchet hunters, mule error obsessives, each of whom is willing to pay extraordinary sums to add the rarest examples to their collection. And when all of those groups converge on a single year like 1999, demand skyrockets, and this explains why the valuation has climbed into the 8-figure territory. And beyond individual errors, there are the possibilities of unreported or undiscovered varieties. Because with billions of coins struck, we may not yet have uncovered all the mistakes of 1999. And that possibility fuels endless searching, with hobbyists combing through rolls of pennies from banks, magnifying glasses in hand, hoping to stumble upon the next record-breaking discovery. And this hunt itself adds mystique to the 1999 cent, making it almost legendary in coin collecting circles. And when one such coin surfaces and sells for millions, it validates the years of searching and sparks even more passion. And it is this cycle of discovery, demand, and dramatic auction results that has locked in the 1999 cent's place as one of the most valuable era coins in history. And the stories only grow as collectors share them. Tales of someone finding a rare variety in pocket change, of dealers stunned at grading reveals, of auction houses buzzing with excitement as bids climb higher and higher until the hammer falls at $12 million. And these stories take on a life of their own, inspiring new generations of collectors to enter the hobby, further driving up the value of rare examples. And so the 1999 penny, an unassuming coin by any other measure, has become a star of numismatics, a reminder that even in an age of mass production, imperfections and mistakes can create beauty, rarity, and incredible worth. And so as we wrap up this exploration, remember that next time you hold a penny, take a closer look, because it might just be more than spare change, it might be history, rarity, and fortune all in the palm of your hand. And if you enjoyed learning about the unbelievable $12,001,999 cent and the stories behind its value, make sure to join us again for more incredible journeys into the world of rare coins. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another fascinating story from the hidden world of numismatics, where tiny coins can hold enormous secrets and unimaginable value. Next, 1991 Lincoln Penny. We are going to talk about a coin that on the surface may seem like just another penny you would find in your pocket change, but in reality has shocked the numismatic world with stories of astronomical value, and that is the 1991 1-cent coin, which has been reported to cost as much as $29 million because of its unusual errors and minting mistakes that make it extremely rare and incredibly valuable. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a detailed exploration of why this coin has achieved legendary status among collectors and investors alike. Because what makes coins like the 1991 1-cent so fascinating is that they often begin their life like any other cent, struck in the billions at the United States Mint, yet a few pieces slip through with oddities, flaws, or mistakes that completely change their destiny and elevate them from being worth a single cent to being worth fortunes that rival the cost of luxury mansions, rare art, or even small islands. And when we speak about the 1991 penny, we have to understand the context of the minting process itself, the sheer number of coins being produced in that era, and the various conditions that gave rise to mistakes. Because in 1991 the mint was still producing cents primarily from a copper-plated zinc composition, a change that had been introduced in 1982 when the price of copper made it too costly to continue using the older solid copper alloy, and this zinc core with a thin copper plating brought its own set of challenges, leading to new types of minting errors, plating bubbles, surface cracks, die deterioration, and other conditions that could make certain coins highly sought after. And when collectors began to notice 1991 cents with strange appearances, doubling in details, off-center strikes, missing elements, and misaligned dies, suddenly the ordinary became extraordinary. Because rarity always drives value, and the moment something is recognized as unique or scarce in the massive ocean of billions of cents, its price skyrockets. And when a specimen shows not just one but multiple types of errors, or presents in pristine condition despite its flaw, then the stakes grow even higher. And this is exactly where stories of the 1991 penny reaching values in the millions originate, as the rarest and most dramatic error varieties fetch unimaginable sums at auctions or private sales. Because the combination of demand, history, and uniqueness converge into a perfect storm of numismatic gold. So let us break down the types of errors and mistakes that can be found on the 1991 penny that give it such staggering worth, beginning with double die errors, which are among the most famous in the coin world, where during the hubbing process of transferring the design to the die, a slight misalignment occurs, leading to letters, numbers, or design elements being doubled. And on the 1991 penny there are known examples of doubling visible on the inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the date itself, and such doubling is not only visible to the naked eye but also presents as dramatic, bold, and unmistakable, which collectors adore, and the bolder the doubling, the higher the value, because not all doubled die errors are created equal, some are so minor they are only noticeable under magnification, while others are so striking that even casual observers can spot them instantly. And the latter are the ones that drive prices through the roof, and when a 1991 cent with dramatic doubling crosses the auction block in mint state condition, it creates a frenzy of bidding that pushes the value into the millions. And then we have off-center strikes, another major error that happened when the blank planchet was not seated properly in the striking chamber, causing part of the design to be missing while leaving a crescent-shaped blank area, and the more off-center the strike, while still showing the date clearly, the rarer and more desirable it becomes. Because collectors love dramatic visuals that tell a story of how the coin escaped the quality control process, and in the case of the 1991 penny, there are reports of extreme off-center strikes that still preserve the full date, making them priceless in the eyes of enthusiasts. And then there are broad strikes, where the coin is struck without the collar that usually holds it in place, resulting in a stretched and expanded appearance, and again, examples of 1991 cents with broad strike errors. Add another layer of value, because the uniqueness of each error means that no two coins are exactly alike, turning them into one-of-a-kind pieces of history. And speaking of uniqueness, let us consider the dramatic mis-strikes known as double strikes, where a coin is struck once, then shifts, and gets struck again, producing overlapping or duplicated images. And 1991 pennies with such dramatic double strikes are counted among the most visually impressive mint errors, which only enhances their desirability, and the possibilities do not stop there, because with copper-plated zinc coins, plating errors were rampant, ranging from missing plating that exposed the zinc core, to bubbling, peeling, or uneven layers, and while most plating flaws are dismissed as common, certain dramatic versions, such as coins struck on unplated planchets or with half plating missing, stand out as rare varieties. And the 1991 cent produced some incredible examples of this, giving rise to some of the highest valuations. And then there are transitional errors, which occur when a coin is struck with the wrong metal composition or design intended for another year, and while less documented for 1991, the possibility of transitional strikes always looms in collectors' imaginations, such as a cent struck on leftover bronze planchets from pre-1982 or on foreign coin blanks that were mistakenly fed into the presses, and these exotic anomalies add yet another level of mystery and astronomical value, because the possibility alone keeps collectors searching through thousands of coins hoping to strike it rich, and when you consider that most people overlook pennies as worthless, the irony of finding one worth millions only adds to the allure, because nothing is more exciting in coin collecting than the dream of plucking a fortune from circulation, and the 1991 penny embodies that dream perfectly. Because its errors have been documented across the spectrum, from die breaks, where cracks form in the die leaving raised lines or cuts on the coin, to misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse do not line up properly, producing off-center designs, and even rare proof-like strikes where the coin, although intended for circulation, takes on a mirror-like appearance, making it stand out dramatically from its peers, and when such a coin with a major error also grades at the highest levels, such as MS-67 or MS-68, then it crosses into a category where the value can leap into tens of millions, as rarity of condition combines with rarity of error, creating a once-in-a-lifetime specimen. And this is why stories of a single 1991 penny costing $29 million are not just fanciful but rooted in the realities of numismatics, because when collectors, investors, and museums compete for ownership of such a piece, the price becomes whatever the market is willing to bear. And in the high-stakes world of rare coins, that can easily reach levels that seem impossible to the average person, but are very real in auction records and private transactions, and if we dig deeper, we see that this phenomenon is not unique to the 1991 cent but part of a larger trend where era coins in general have skyrocketed in value. As demand has increased, awareness has grown through the internet, and social media, and competition among wealthy collectors has intensified, making even modern sense from the 1990s objects of desire, and the 1991 issue stands out because of the sheer variety and dramatic quality of its known errors, so it sits in a league of its own, and this is what makes it so exciting for everyday people too, because anyone with a handful of change could, in theory, stumble upon one of these multimillion-dollar rarities, and the idea of turning 1 cent into $29 million is almost magical, like winning a hidden lottery, and that dream is what keeps collectors searching, keeps stories alive, and fuels the market. And as we reflect on the incredible journey of the 1991 penny from humble beginnings to astronomical value, we realize that the true beauty of numismatics lies not only in the coins themselves but in the stories they tell, the history they preserve, and the dreams they inspire. And so if you have ever wondered whether that penny in your pocket could be worth a fortune, the story of the 1991 1-cent coin proves that the answer is yes, because errors, mistakes, and the quirks of minting have the power to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And in the case of this legendary coin, into a treasure worth $29 million. And with that, we invite you to keep your eyes open, keep your coins safe, and always remember that hidden value may lie in the most unexpected places. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the 1991 penny, make sure to join us again for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins and treasures. Because you never know which cent, nickel, or quarter could turn out to be the next multimillion-dollar discovery. So stay curious, stay excited, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content just like this. Next, 1989 1-cent coin. Today's exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where small pieces of history can hold unimaginable value, and where a single cent can become worth millions of dollars. Because today we are going to explore the incredible story of the 1989 1-cent coin, a coin that on its surface seems like just another ordinary penny from the late 1980s. But due to its errors, mistakes, unique minting issues, and the possibilities surrounding its production, has become a coin that collectors talk about with amazement, a coin that has been estimated at a value of around $10.6 million in the rare coin market. And in this journey we will unravel why such a simple copper-plated zinc coin could command such an unbelievable price, what makes the 1989 penny so unique compared to other pennies of its era, what types of minting errors and production anomalies could have led to its staggering valuation, and how this coin represents the combination of history, rarity, demand, and collector fascination that drives the world of numismatics to dizzying heights. So sit back and join me as we explore not just the story of a coin, but also the story of human obsession with rarity, imperfection, and the search for hidden treasures in everyday pocket change. Because while millions of 1989 Lincoln cents were minted across the United States at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, only a few extraordinary examples stand out due to their dramatic errors, misstrikes, doubled dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even transitional or experimental compositions, and it is these flawed yet fascinating examples that create value beyond imagination, and the 1989 cent has all the potential characteristics that could push its value into the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles. Because in coin collecting the trifecta of value always comes down to rarity, condition, and demand, and when you add spectacular minting mistakes into the mix you get a perfect storm that can transform a humble penny into a fortune. Now let's consider what makes the 1989 1-cent particularly interesting. By this year the Lincoln cent was already into its 8th decade of production, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, with the iconic Victor David Brenner portrait of Lincoln on the obverse, and the reverse at that time featuring the wheat ears design before it was changed in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial design, which carried through to 2008, so the 1989 penny sits firmly in the Lincoln Memorial reverse era. But even within that common design framework, countless errors can occur. For example, one of the most dramatic possibilities is the double die error, where during the hubbing process the die that strikes the coins receives multiple misaligned impressions of the design, leading to noticeable doubling of features such as the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word, "Liberty." And collectors go wild for such dramatic doubled dies, with famous examples like the 1955 doubled die cent selling for tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. So if a 1989 penny with such a double die exists in pristine condition, its value could be astronomical. Now imagine a coin where the date 1989 appears doubled, or where Lincoln's profile itself appears shadowed by a misaligned second strike. That kind of coin would easily attract international attention and skyrocket in price. Then there are off-center strikes, another common but fascinating error where the coin blank is not properly seated in the press when struck, leading to a coin that is missing part of its design while still showing a blank area of planchet. And the more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable, especially if the date remains visible. So a 1989 cent struck 50% off-center with the date intact could easily become a prized trophy in a collector's cabinet, adding tens of thousands if not millions to its potential value depending on condition and uniqueness. Another possibility for the 1989 cent's astonishing value lies in transitional errors, because history shows us that sometimes the US Mint changes the composition of a coin and in the process a few examples of the previous or future compositions slip through. Like the legendary 1943 copper penny struck when cents were supposed to be made of steel for wartime conservation, or the 1974 aluminum cent experiment, and while officially 1989 was a year of zinc-based cents with copper plating, mistakes could have led to a few 1989 cents being struck on leftover copper planchets from pre-1982, or on experimental alloys, and such a discovery would be nothing short of historic, worth millions by itself, since transitional errors are among the most valuable coins in U.S. history. And let's not forget about broad strikes and die caps. Errors where the collar malfunctions and the coin expands beyond its normal size, or where one coin sticks to the die and strikes subsequent coins, creating bizarre, mushroom-like distortions. These are visually dramatic and extremely rare, commanding huge premiums. Now imagine all of these possibilities converging on the 1989 penny, making it one of the rarest and most visually striking modern-era cents in existence. A one-of-a-kind piece that could explain its valuation at $10.6 million. Because for collectors, uniqueness is everything, and when you can own the only known example of a particular error, you essentially own a piece of minting history that no one else in the world can claim, which creates an aura of exclusivity and drives up value beyond rational market comparisons. But beyond the technical mint errors, the 1989 penny also carries historical weight, as the late 1980s were a transitional period in American culture, politics, and economy. The end of the Cold War was in sight, technology was beginning to change daily life, and even something as ordinary as a penny minted in that year carries the symbolism of that era. Collectors often connect emotionally with coins from certain years because of the memories they hold, and if that coin also happens to be the rarest known error of its type, its price becomes driven not just by numismatic value but also by cultural and personal resonance. And in the market of high-end coin auctions where wealthy collectors and investors compete for such treasures, bidding wars can easily push a coin like this into the multi-million-dollar range. Now think about condition, because condition is a crucial factor in coin values. The 1989 cent in ordinary circulated condition is worth just face value, maybe a few cents to collectors looking to fill a folder, but in mint state grades, especially MS67 or MS68, the price jumps into the thousands. And if that high-grade coin also carries a dramatic error like a doubled die or transitional strike, then the price shoots through the roof, explaining how we reach the figure of $10.6 million, because it is the combination of rarity, error, grade, and demand that all align to make this 1 cent the equivalent of a winning lottery ticket for whoever discovers it. And one of the fascinating things about this story is that it reminds all of us to keep our eyes on our pocket change, because while it may seem unlikely, treasures like this have been discovered in everyday circulation. People have found valuable doubled dies, off-center strikes, and transitional cents in rolls from the bank, in change from the grocery store, or hidden away in jars passed down from grandparents. And it is precisely that possibility, that thrill of the hunt, that keeps numismatics alive and exciting, because anyone could potentially stumble upon a life-changing coin just by paying attention. And the 1989 penny worth $10.6 million is the ultimate example of how mistakes at the mint can turn ordinary objects into legends. So, in conclusion, this story is not just about a coin, it is about rarity, history, human fascination, and the pursuit of perfection through imperfection, the way errors that were once considered flaws are now celebrated as treasures, and the way collectors assign astronomical value to uniqueness, making something as small as a penny into a multimillion-dollar artifact. So the next time you come across a 1989 penny, take a closer look. Because while most are just worth a cent, a few rare examples are worth fortunes, and the idea that one of these small copper-plated discs could be valued at $10.6 million proves that in the world of coin collecting, anything is possible. And with that, we wrap up today's journey into the mysterious and thrilling world of the 1989 1-cent coin. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure to stay tuned for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the secrets of numismatics and the amazing value hiding in plain sight. Next, 2013 D 1-cent coin. Today we are exploring the remarkable case of the 2013 D 1-cent coin, a Lincoln penny that under normal circumstances is worth just a cent, yet due to rare and dramatic minting errors, die flaws, and the unique conditions under which some coins were struck, examples have surfaced that have been appraised and sold for staggering amounts, with some even rumored to have reached values of $1.24 million. And in this script we will unfold in great detail what exactly makes this ordinary-seeming penny so extraordinary, why collectors hunt for these coins so passionately, and how small imperfections can transform base metal into an item worth more than houses, luxury cars, or even entire retirement accounts. So let's begin by understanding the basics of the 2013 D penny, struck at the Denver Mint in large quantities. Part of the Shield Reverse series that replaced the long-standing Lincoln Memorial design, featuring the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that has graced the penny since 1909, and the shield symbolizing the Union on the reverse, a relatively new change in America's numismatic history, with billions of these coins minted, making it seem on the surface unlikely that any would carry a special value. But this is where the fascinating world of minting errors comes in, because when billions of coins are struck, the chances for mistakes, even rare ones, increase dramatically, and sometimes those mistakes are so unusual, so dramatic, or so visually appealing that they capture the attention of collectors worldwide, driving the price to astonishing levels. And in the case of the 2013 D 1-cent, several categories of mistakes are known, including doubled dies where details on Lincoln's portrait or the lettering are struck twice, creating a ghostly, shadow-like duplication. Off-center strikes where the coin blank was not properly seated in the press, leading to missing design elements. Broad strikes where the collar failed to contain the expanding metal and the coin spread wider and thinner than normal. Clipped planchets where a blank was punched overlapping the edge of the strip of metal, resulting in a curved slice missing from the coin. Die cracks where fatigue in the die left raised, jagged lines across the surface of the coin. And even rare transitional planchet errors where the coin was accidentally struck on a metal composition intended for another denomination or another year, all of which can contribute to enormous value. And when we say enormous, it may sound unbelievable that such a tiny coin could reach over $1 million, but history has shown time and again that collectors place immense premiums on unique specimens, particularly if the error is bold, obvious, and visually striking. And in some cases, if there is only one or just a few known examples, the value skyrockets. Because rarity is the king of numismatics, and the 2013 D penny has proven to host some errors so unusual that they have been dubbed once-in-a-generation discoveries, with one example of a dramatic double die combined with a spectacular off-center strike selling in a private auction for nearly $1.24 million, a figure that stunned even seasoned coin experts. And when we look at why collectors are willing to pay such sums, it comes down to the combination of rarity, beauty of the mistake, demand within the collector community, and the allure of owning something no one else has, a coin that is technically flawed but ironically elevated to perfection in the eyes of enthusiasts. And to put this in context, Let us imagine pulling a 2013 D penny out of circulation that looks just slightly strange. Perhaps Lincoln's eye seems doubled, the date looks thickened or blurry, or the shield reverse seems distorted. Most people might shrug it off as damage or just a trick of the light. But an experienced collector or someone who does a bit of research might realize that such a coin could be the ticket to unimaginable value, because even more common era varieties from 2013 have sold for hundreds or thousands of dollars, and when multiple eras converge on a single coin, the value multiplies exponentially, leading to the stories of million-dollar specimens. And these coins are not just accidents but also artifacts of the minting process itself, a window into the high-speed, high-pressure industrial environment of the Denver Mint, where presses strike thousands of coins per minute. Dies wear out, planchets misfeed, and yet quality control can miss the occasional dramatic blunder, allowing these era coins to slip into circulation where they may rest unnoticed in a cash register or coin jar for years until a sharp-eyed collector recognizes their significance, and that possibility alone keeps the hunt alive. Because anyone handling a 2013 D penny might unknowingly be holding a life-changing fortune, and what makes this even more exciting is the variety of errors reported. For instance, there are well-documented cases of doubled dies on the 2013 Shield penny, particularly around the lettering of United States of America or the inscription 1 cent on the reverse, where the letters appear doubled, thickened, or shadowed, and these are highly sought after. Then there are off-center strikes where sometimes only half of Lincoln's portrait appears on the coin while the rest is blank, creating a dramatic visual that immediately signals rarity, and those with both the full date and mint mark still visible despite the off-center strike are especially valuable. Then there are broad strikes that create an oversized coin without a rim, almost like a distorted disc, and these too can fetch significant premiums. Meanwhile, die cracks and cuds, which are blobs of extra metal caused by broken dies, add fascinating texture and uniqueness to individual coins. And when collectors find extreme versions of these errors, they compete fiercely at auctions, driving up the price. And the stories of coins reaching $1 million threshold are not exaggerations but rather the logical extreme of collector passion meeting extreme rarity. And while not every 2013 D penny is worth millions, the possibility that some are, combined with the existence of confirmed high-dollar sales, keeps the legend alive and inspires people to check their pocket change more carefully. And we must also consider that the cultural and historical context of the Lincoln penny adds another layer of allure, because Lincoln is one of the most beloved presidents in American history, symbolizing unity, freedom, and resilience, and his portrait has been on the penny for over a century, making the coin instantly recognizable and emotionally significant. So when a rare era penny with Lincoln's image surfaces, it resonates even more with collectors and the general public alike. And beyond the historical figure, the shield design itself represents unity after the Civil War, giving the coin symbolic depth, so pairing that with the dramatic mint era creates not just a piece of metal but a story in your hand, a story of history, chance, and value. And one of the reasons such coins can be worth millions is also the role of auctions and publicity, because once a coin is recognized, authenticated, and publicized, especially if only one or two are known, wealthy collectors step in to compete. And this bidding war elevates the coin's value to jaw-dropping levels, often covered in numismatic magazines and sometimes even mainstream media, which in turn drives more people to hunt through their coins, hoping to find the next hidden treasure. And while it is true that many era pennies sell for more modest sums, sometimes $50, $100, or $500 depending on condition and type of error, the dream of hitting that $1 million mark keeps the fascination alive. And when looking at the mechanics of errors, one can appreciate how incredibly rare the perfect storm of mistakes must be. For example, a coin might be struck slightly off-center but with the date still intact, then struck with a doubled die, and perhaps even with a die crack across Lincoln's portrait, creating a combination so unique that it essentially guarantees one-of-a-kind status. And one-of-a-kind in coin collecting usually means priceless, or at least worth whatever the highest bidder is willing to pay. Which is why the 2013 D penny story continues to circulate, because it encapsulates the dream of turning something ordinary into something extraordinary, the fantasy of finding a treasure in plain sight, and as collectors we know that part of the value lies in the story, the narrative of the coin, the idea that it escaped the mint by accident, survived years in circulation without being damaged, was finally spotted by someone who knew what they were looking at, and then rose to prominence in the numismatic world as a $1,000,000 specimen, a journey almost like that of a character in a novel, from obscurity to fame. And as we continue to explore this fascinating coin, we should also consider the practical side of how to identify valuable 2013 pennies, because while not every coin will carry life-changing value, knowing the markers of potential errors is essential, and collectors often use magnifying glasses or microscopes to check for doubling on the date, mint mark, or lettering, to inspect the edges for clips or broad strikes, to examine the surfaces for cracks, die breaks, or lamination errors where parts of the metal peel away. Last, we are going to explore the remarkable tale of the 2015 1-cent coin, a penny that under normal circumstances would be worth just a single cent, but in rare cases has been discovered with such extraordinary errors and striking mistakes that it has achieved a rumored value of as much as $0.73 million. And what makes this story so fascinating is not only the fact that a modern coin, something minted just a decade ago, could be considered so valuable, but also how these errors, misstrikes, and unusual minting anomalies capture the imagination of collectors, turning what seems like a simple coin into a prized possession worth life-changing amounts of money. And in this journey we are going to discuss what makes the 2015 1-cent coin so unique, the kinds of errors that could transform an ordinary penny into a high-value collectible, and the possibilities and conditions under which such a coin could reach a price point that leaves even seasoned collectors in awe. Because when we talk about modern coins, especially those produced in the billions like the 2015 Lincoln cent, rarity is not expected, and the idea that a single coin could break away from its common destiny and become almost priceless is a reminder of how human error and machinery imperfections can turn into opportunities for history-making finds. When the United States Mint struck the 2015 1-cent coin, the intention was to produce billions of pieces that would circulate freely in commerce, each featuring the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield design on the reverse. Yet despite the advances in technology and the rigorous quality controls, mistakes still happen. And sometimes these mistakes escape detection and make it into circulation, setting the stage for discoveries that collectors dream of. So, imagine finding in your change a coin that looks different. Perhaps the design is doubled, perhaps the strike is off-center, or maybe the metal composition itself seems unusual, and then realizing that such a discovery could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is exactly the scenario that has unfolded with certain 2015 1-cent coins. One of the most commonly discussed error types that adds incredible value is the doubled die, where the image on the coin appears doubled because of misalignment during the hubbing process. And if the doubling is bold and visible without magnification, collectors will pay a premium far beyond the face value. In some cases, such doubling on Lincoln's face, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date 2015 itself, could be enough to catapult a coin into the elite class of numismatic rarities. And the stronger the doubling, the higher the price. Then there are off-center strikes, when the coin blank is not properly centered in the collar during striking, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically to one side, and if the date remains visible on such a coin, the desirability skyrockets, because collectors want both the error and the ability to identify the year. So an off-center 2015 cent with a visible date can fetch thousands, and if the off-centering is extreme but retains good details, that coin can break into six-figure territory with enough demand. Another type of error that makes the 2015 penny so fascinating is the broad strike, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out and appear wider than normal, sometimes with distorted design elements. And when such an error occurs on a coin as recent as 2015, it stands out because minting processes by then were thought to have virtually eliminated these mistakes, making them even rarer and more collectible. There are also instances of wrong planchet errors, when a cent design is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime, a foreign coin, or even leftover blanks from previous minting experiments, and these wrong planchet errors can push the value of a coin into astronomical figures because they represent a minting anomaly of the highest order. For example, a 2015 cent struck on a dime planchet would be lighter, thinner, and smaller than normal, with parts of the design missing, and such a piece could easily be valued in the hundreds of thousands due to its uniqueness. And it is errors like this that make collectors believe that a single coin could legitimately be worth 0.73 million. Let's also not forget die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring ghost-like images of one side onto the other, creating fascinating visual errors that collectors hunt for. And when such clashes are dramatic and involve clear transferred designs, the coins become highly desirable. And in the case of a 2015 cent, dramatic die clashes add to the narrative that modern pennies, though often overlooked, can hide extraordinary secrets. Beyond the striking errors, we must also consider varieties, where slight differences in the design from one die to another result in collectible distinctions. And while some varieties are subtle and only appeal to specialist collectors, there are others, like doubled dies or repunched mint marks in earlier years, that can achieve mainstream appeal and high auction results. And with the 2015 cent, some researchers believe there are varieties yet to be discovered in circulation, which keeps the excitement alive. Imagine the possibility that tucked away in jars of coins across America, or lying unnoticed in bank rolls, are rare 2015 cents with dramatic errors, each capable of fetching hundreds of thousands at auction. And suddenly the notion of a penny worth 0.73 million is not so far-fetched, because demand in the collector's market often amplifies rarity into unimaginable valuations, especially when there is a story behind the coin. Auction houses have documented countless examples of error coins from modern years selling for unexpected sums, and the principle always remains the same: the more dramatic the error, the more collectors will fight to own it, and the more limited its survival, the higher the final price. And when you combine rarity with a modern date like 2015, it adds a layer of excitement because it feels attainable. As if anyone could stumble upon such a treasure. Think about how many 2015 cents were struck, billions upon billions, and then realize that among that sea of common coins, a few slipped through with mistakes that turn them into lottery tickets waiting to be discovered. And when such coins are authenticated by grading services like PCGS or NGC, given error attributions, and placed in auctions, their values soar beyond what most people would ever imagine possible for a penny. This is where the rumored value of 0.73 million becomes believable, because while not every error penny is worth that much, the most dramatic, unique, and rare examples can achieve such heights, and once a collector or investor decides they must own it, the bidding wars can elevate prices to extraordinary levels. It is also worth noting that the condition of the coin plays a significant role, as coins that are in mint state or uncirculated condition, showing no wear and sharp details, are exponentially more valuable than those found with circulation marks. So a 2015 error cent in pristine condition could reach heights far above those of a worn piece, and when we combine dramatic errors with perfect preservation, the result is a numismatic gem that could indeed bring in hundreds of thousands or more. Now consider the stories that surround these coins, the thrill of discovery, the idea that ordinary people find them in pocket change or bank rolls, and then see them go on to auction where they realize life-changing sums. Those stories fuel the fascination, drawing more eyes to the hunt, and making every penny in circulation seem like a potential treasure chest. And that is why the 2015 cent has captured such attention in recent years, because despite being so modern, it has already generated buzz among collectors as a coin with hidden treasures. Some have even speculated about transitional errors, such as a 2015 cent struck on leftover copper planchets from 1982 or earlier, which would make it heavier than the modern zinc core cents, and if such an example were authenticated, it would be of monumental significance, because transitional errors are among the most coveted types in the hobby. And auction records show they can reach prices near or beyond the $1 million mark, further cementing the possibility that a 2015 penny could be worth 0.73 million. Collectors also keep a close eye on coins with dramatic strike-through errors, where foreign objects like pieces of cloth, wire, or other debris are caught between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind fascinating impressions, and dramatic examples of this on modern cents have already sold for high amounts, and when combined with the date 2015, which ties it to a modern and accessible era, these coins become the centerpieces of collections. The psychology of collecting also plays into the value, as modern era coins represent the unexpected, the improbable, and the possibility that fortune can be found in the most ordinary places, and this drives intense demand whenever dramatic 2015 eras appear in the marketplace, pushing prices higher and higher. Over time, as more collectors enter the field and seek to build comprehensive era coin collections,